Good evening. Welcome to the Livonia Public Schools Board of Education Committee of the Whole meeting of February 9th, 2026. We welcome you this evening. We have a very small audience. We do thank folks for their patience in our getting started. Due to an emergency water main break right at the intersection of 5 Mile and Farmington, we did have to move our meeting to the Early Childhood Center. So if anyone's wondering where we are and why this room looks a little bit different, we are now, thankfully, in the Early Childhood Center. Thank you to our team at ECC for readying this room for us pretty quickly, and to our tech folks for getting us all set up over here. We will go on from here. If you are looking for agendas for our meeting this evening, they can be found on our website. That is livoniapublicschools.org. If you hover over the board tab, you can drop down to board meeting information and you can find our agenda there. For those who are present, we also have copies of our agenda here in the room with us. This evening's meeting is a committee of the whole meeting, and what that means is this is the type of meeting, this is the kind of meeting where we have a lot of very deep discussion on items that will likely be coming before the board for a vote at a future date. That date will probably be next week. We'll have a lot of questions and answers. However, votes will not be taken at tonight's meeting. That happens during our regular or voting meeting, as folks do call it at times. We do welcome you to tonight's meeting, because if you're trying to learn more about the conversation and the hows and whys and questions and answers, you've come to the right meeting. We do want to let everyone know that we hold very firmly to the concept of respect in our school district. It is part of the characteristics that we are teaching our children from preschool all the way through our post-high school experience with our young adults. You have that commitment from this Board of Education that we will treat one another and everyone who comes before the board with respect. We ask that you do the same for all who are participating in tonight's meeting. Let's see here. That brings us to our agenda. First item on our agenda is audience communications. I don't have any blue slips. Are there any folks in the audience this evening who would like to approach the board for audience communications? Seeing none, we will move on. Item 2 is our committee of the whole. Item 2A is our code of ethics. Code of ethics is something that we review every year. We go around the board table. We read each item on the code of ethics. We discuss it and make sure that it is as we still want it to be. Inevitably, each year we have a few tweaks here and there, but I'd like to commend this board for a number of years of being very serious about putting together this code of ethics and adhering to it. What we're going to do right now is go ahead and get started with that. Mrs. Opus, is there anything you'd like to add to this before we get started?
I think we are good to go. We have made, not good to go, but good to go with the changes that were discussed at the study session. Those have been made in red on the code of ethics, and once that is completed by the board, whenever the board does vote on it, we will bring it for signatures and we will post it as we have each year in the board room.
This is one of our bylaws of the board. It is found in our policy book if anyone is interested, policy B or bylaw BHA. Why don't we go ahead and start with Mr. Johnson, if you'd like to start us off with the opening paragraph, and we'll go ahead and read through it all, make sure everything is as we want it to be.
The opening paragraph states, as members of the Livonia Public Schools Board of Education, we shall promote the best interests of the school district as a whole and will make decisions that place student learning and the success of all students first by adhering to the following educational and ethical standards.
That's appropriate for everybody? Okay. Mr. McFarland, do you want to take the next one?
Sure. Just as a board member,
yep.
Do I have to keep going?
You can take that and I think you can handle both.
As a board member, I will make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and will seek to develop and maintain schools that meet the individual needs of all children, regardless of their sex, race, color, national origin, religion, age, height, weight, marital status, handicap, disability, sexual orientation, sexual identity, or transgender status.
You good with that? Okay.
I will be a personal advocate for the good work of the district.
I will focus board action on policymaking, strategic planning, and designating and evaluating the superintendent.
I recognize that the role of the board is to govern and oversee the management of the district. I will delegate authority to the superintendent for the day-to-day operations of the district and will not seek to participate in the day-to-day operations.
Who else said that?
I will review and evaluate all board policies, bylaws of the board, and procedures and processes of the board. I will work to make desired changes so they will be current, relevant, and in accordance with the state and/or federal laws. When requested, I will review all administrative procedures brought forth and give input to the superintendent. However, I recognize that the board does not vote to approve administrative procedures.
I will follow established board operating procedures.
I will come to board meetings prepared to discuss and take action on all agenda items. I will read and study the board meeting information and will seek clarification, if needed, prior to each board meeting. I just have one, when I reread this again today, where it says in that first line, I will read and study the board meeting information and will seek. Do we need the second will when we already said I will read and study?
We can do without it. So read.
It would read, I will read and study the board meeting information and will seek clarification if needed prior to each board meeting.
So you're saying you want to take out the will?
Take out the red will, that second will in that sentence.
Okay, well, you read it again, didn't you?
So read it without, you want to read it without the will in it?
Okay, I will read and study the board information and seek clarification if needed prior to each board meeting.
I'm fine with removing the will. Everyone else?
Okay, yeah, I
Okay.
think that's good.
I will give the superintendent and board president notification of my concerns prior to the board meetings so that the concerns can be properly addressed.
I understand that I have not only the right, but the duty to express my views and opinions and ask questions at the board table, and will make a good faith effort to understand the views of others.
I recognize that the board must make decisions as a whole in public. I will base all decisions on the available facts and my independent judgment, and I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to individuals with special interest groups.
I will avoid being placed in a position of conflict of interest, and if such a conflict is unavoidable, I will disclose such interests and abstain from voting on such matters.
I will work with my fellow board members toward consensus when making decisions. Once a decision is made, we'll support the decision and its implementation. And the only change I would make on that is before that will support, out the word I.
Yours must be
There's in
cut off,
there.
because it's
There's
on
is
mine.
cut off.
Oh, is it? Okay, good.
I recognize that while I am free to express my personal views, the board president is the spokesperson for the board, and the superintendent is the spokesperson for the district. This includes all written and spoken communications, including social media.
I will be respectful and listen to all ideas presented to the board, be it from parents, staff, students, community members, other board members, or other stakeholders. I will listen and then refer any person to appropriate personnel.
I will communicate to the board members and the superintendent significant expression of public reaction to board policies and school programs.
I will exercise caution when communicating between and among board members, including electronic communication, and will abide by the Open Meetings Act.
I will hold confidential all matters that, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals, schools, or the district. I will keep confidential all information that is privileged under applicable law, including closed session discussions.
I will stay informed about current educational issues by individual study and through participation in programs providing needed information. For example, those sponsored by my state and national school board associations. I will share what I have learned with my Livonia Public Schools colleagues, formally or informally, so as to keep our board apprised of current issues and topics.
I will take no private or public action that will compromise the board, the administration, or the district.
I will refrain from using my board position for personal or partisan gain.
I will support the hiring of those persons best qualified to serve as district staff.
I have a question about that.
Okay, this is
Is,
Frank.
is there ever a time when we, of course, we support the hiring of the best qualified, but we support the hiring of the recommended staff, right? I don't say, I think Tommy is more qualified than Johnny.
Right, the board isn't weighing in on that.
Right. So I
That's
don't know if
standard.
that's clear, but just if somebody is coming in, then they get the opportunity to
Those
say, I think
persons
there's
being
somebody best
recommended
qualified.
as,
Yes.
you could include, I will support the hiring of those persons being recommended as the best qualified to serve.
Yes.
How about recommended by administration or recommended by the superintendent? One of the two. Is recommended by my neighbor, doesn't.
Right,
Same.
right, or
Meaning.
because I think it's different.
Administration, okay.
So I will support the hiring of those persons recommended by the administration as best qualified to serve as district staff.
I think if you said being recommended,
Yes.
that might make sense. I would
Yep,
support the
that's
hiring
those
of
two
those
as.
persons being recommended by administration as best qualified to serve as district staff.
I will support and protect district personnel in the proper performance of their duties.
I will, along with my fellow board members, wait a minute.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
need
yeah,
we'll take it out.
yeah.
Really one of those.
Okay, stop, I'll reread it. I will, along with my fellow board members, review, revise, and sign this code of ethics annually at the beginning of each calendar year. So I would take out that will.
I think it reads better if you take out the second one.
I do too.
Right.
That's what I did.
No, wait, the other way around.
Take out the first one, I along with my fellow board members.
Right,
Well,
we'll review.
I think last year you added it and you added it
Did we really?
at the beginning,
Yes.
because you wanted it to
Yes,
be
to be
consistent with the.
Okay, I
That's
will,
amazing.
gotcha, okay, all right.
So I'll reread it.
So,
I will, along with my fellow board members, review, revise, and sign this code of ethics annually at the beginning of each calendar year.
Can I ask, is there a reason why we say along with my fellow board members, because that would apply to all the previous statements also? I will, along with my, you could fit that in with any of the other statements.
that's true.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right, so it would
Okay.
read, I will review,
Yep.
revise, and sign this code of ethics annually at the beginning of each calendar year.
The only thing is individually, we cannot revise it.
I think that one, because also there's no place that says that it's gonna be reviewed every year and signed. Is there another spot that says?
Yes.
Individually, we review it, individually, we can sign it, but we can't revise it. unless
What-
we're doing it.
What if we say, I will review, make recommendations to revise and sign the code of ethics?
Or is this one just a totally different one that just says, we, has, it's not a I will, it's a separate. The Board of Education will review, revise, and sign the Code of Ethics annually at the beginning of each calendar year.
But we do make recommendations to revise it.
Participate in the review, revision, and signing.
I like that.
Okay, can you read
What did you
that?
say, Robin?
You could say, I will participate in the review, revision, and signing of this code of ethics annually at the
Okay.
end of each year.
Here we go.
Do you want me to read the board president's? What
No,
step are you
Go
reading
ahead,
now?
if you're next, go ahead. I've lost where we are.
As board president, I will ensure that persons addressing the board follow established guidelines as outlined in board policy.
As board president, I will advise persons addressing the board to do so in a respectful manner and not allow rude or indecent behavior, profane or indecent discourse to be directed to the board, superintendent, or others during board meetings.
I do have a suggestion on that. We started to discuss it last week, and I'd like to change what was discussed initially as a change. First, after the word rude, the comma does need to go. And for those listening from home, this language is taken out of state law, which is why it's being phrased as it is. But I would also like to add, right after profane or indecent discourse, comma, or otherwise willfully disruptive behavior. And I'll read, and the reason for that is because that is what is in state law in this same sentence.
Okay.
So it would read, I will advise persons addressing the board to do so in a respectful manner and will not allow rude or indecent behavior, profane or indecent discourse, or otherwise willfully disruptive behavior to be directed to the board, superintendent, or others during board meetings. Work for people?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, yeah, we had, and we had talked about adding, board superintendent, cabinet members, or others during board meetings. Because that's, you cabinet members are on our team.
Yes.
So I'll read it again. I will advise persons addressing the board to do so in a respectful manner and not allow rude or indecent behavior, profane or indecent discourse, or otherwise willfully disruptive behavior to be directed to the board, superintendent, cabinet members, or others during board meetings.
I will not permit disruptive behavior and I will advise attendees. The president may order the disorderly person to withdraw from the meeting.
We will advise attendees back to the president.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
So can you read that again?
Sure. I will not permit disruptive behavior and will advise attendees that the president may order disorderly person to withdraw from the meeting. I don't like order the disorderly.
Redirect.
I think it really needs to be two separate sentences.
I've only been for one of this scenarios, but he had to be withdrawn. I don't know that the disorderly always will just say, hey, you know what, hey, I'm a little out of line, I'm gonna leave. Would we want to change that to they will be withdrawn?
I think it'd be easier to change disorderly to disruptive.
May order the,
May order the disruptive person to withdraw from the meeting.
Yeah, we use disruptive early in the sentence to be consistent.
And that's what state law says, disruptive. I would still like it to be two sentences, because before a president needs to have the person removed, they do need to advise them. That can happen.
so what do you suggest,
Yeah.
Colin?
So I will not permit disruptive behavior, period. I will advise attendees that the president may order the disruptive person to withdraw from the meeting.
I don't know if we wanna say I would, are we? We're not gonna.
this is under the as board president section, so I would like to see it still say, I will not permit disruptive behavior and will advise attendees as, and if needed, will advise attendees as such.
As the president, I
president.
may.
I may
As
order,
the president, I may order or direct the disorderly
yeah.
person.
Order is good, order is strong.
Well, all of this is.
The disruptive. Yeah.
Disruptive versus.
But-
You're right, then it would just need to say I.
Okay,
I will not permit disruptive behavior and will advise attendees as such, comma, if needed. What do you think?
It's as such, period.
I will not permit disruptive behavior and will advise attendees as such. I may order disruptive person, a disruptive person to be withdrawn from the meeting.
I may
I'm not
order,
sure if
what
that needs
about
to
I
say-
may order any disruptive person to be withdrawn from the meeting? Any disruptive person,
Person or persons.
yeah, person or persons to be withdrawn from the meeting.
First off, do we have to have that in there?
Yes.
I can live with it in there, I can live with it not being in there.
I would say
It is
yes,
state law.
because if, yes, you may have to order them to leave the meeting.
I don't like withdraw or withdrawn,
Removed from the meeting.
removed from the meeting.
To be removed from the meeting.
And sometimes it takes a little nudge.
All right, what's it gonna say?
Take big nudge.
What's it say at the end there? What do we decide?
Rather than disorderly, I would rather use disruptive because that is the threshold under state law, is disruptive. I may order. But then it's going from first person to third person in the same sentence.
Because this is
If
already
needed,
asked of
if
us.
needed, I may order the, I may,
I don't like may. I
Yeah.
will. How about will or shall?
yeah, if needed, yeah,
I will.
I will order the disruptive person to be withdrawn from the meeting.
That's back over.
Yeah.
We weren't gonna use withdraw, but we
To be removed from the meeting.
Rejected.
No, that's a little hard.
So if needed,
that's what's happening.
I will order the disruptive person to be removed from the meeting.
I like that better.
Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Then you hope you never have to do that. All right, let's read the last one, reading.
Yes.
The next bullet is, I will ensure that all board members are given an opportunity to express their views. I will work toward building consensus among all board members.
I will follow parliamentary procedure to the extent that it does not conflict with board policy or state law.
You can sign the waivers. All right, are we good with that going forward? Okay, being part of board policy, this will go on to our next regular meeting for a first reading. We won't need to read the entire thing through at that time, we can just highlight the changes. And then the month after that, we'll vote on it and have that going to our policy book as revised.
President Burton,
Yes.
I just wanted to express that, I took a number of courses over the weekend
Oh, I forgot about that.
with the Winter Institute, and one of them dealt with ethics. And it's amazing, there were suggestions from many of the participants that almost sounded word for word what is in our code of ethics. and the number of districts that really don't have a code of ethics that they sign and review every year. I was sort of amazed by that, but we spent 3 hours going over things, and the wording was amazingly similar to what we had in our code of ethics. Now, that may be because we're being used as the model.
That may be, and I'm glad that we are, if that's the case.
So,
We should do a workshop with that.
hey, there you go. But I just thought, I just want to let everybody know that the language is so eerily similar, and listening to other school districts, basically coming up with suggestions like this to put into their code of ethics, and we already have it. It literally, as I was going through, not just one, I took 5 classes, and it wasn't just limited to just one class, but listening to the speakers, and we went into 2 or 3 of the sessions had breakout rooms, multiple breakout rooms, and listening to them make suggestions that we already do was absolutely amazing to me. I mean, we could have sat there and done the class. So I thought that was interesting, and just wanted to express that to all of my colleagues. And we're doing a good job, folks.
And it's been a stable board for a very long time, so
Yes.
shouldn't be terribly surprised at that.
And
So,
we will be honored again as an honor board this year, so congrats to all of us.
absolutely. At the next study session, Mr. Johnson, can you share with us any items of particular interest that may be applicable for us to consider?
I will do that.
No, thank you. That concludes Committee of the Whole, and I will turn it over to Mr. Johnson for the Operations Committee. If I can interrupt you just for a moment. Most folks have not gotten to me, and that's perfectly fine because it slipped my mind also. If you do have preferences on committees you would like to serve on, if you can send those my way. If you don't have any preferences whatsoever, that's also perfectly fine. Just let me know that, and we'll get our committee assignments taken care of and going forward for our next session of study session, Committee of the Whole, and regular meeting. Now, turn it over to Mr. Johnson to take care of operations for us.
Thank you, President Burton. We do have 4 items tonight, and with Mr. Clan here, we will also be seeing Mr. Weber and Mr. Frank. I think they will be.
They're in the green room.
There's Mr. Weber as we speak. So our first item, item A, is recommendation for district door access upgrade.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be back here at the Early Childhood Center, isn't it?
This is a fun
Lovely.
place to be.
So you should have a pretty complete packet in front of you for preparation for this evening. You should have a memo from me that outlines a lot of what we spoke about last week regarding door access. You should have a letter of recommendation from IDS, and you should have a bid tabulation sheet. So hopefully last week when we spoke on the door access, we gave you some great background, but just as a reminder, we are looking at replacing our door access system with an integrated system that accesses our cameras. And Mr. Clan, whenever we get to items that are a little more technical than I feel comfortable with, or I just need to go back and ask him 5 questions, we always appreciate his time to come with us to these meetings, because you may have had a chance to reflect in the last week about what you heard last week and have some follow-up questions. But we have gone out to bid. You have seen in your packet that we had bids were received on January 26th. Integrated Design Solutions, IDS, and our department, which is Tim and his IT folks, recommended proceed with the lowest responsible bidder outlined in IDS's recommendation letter. That bid is being recommended to be for Sequoia Technologies in Rochester Hills, Michigan. Total project cost is $2,171,994,000 with a $200,000 contingency, and this will be funded through the 2021 bond program. We do have past experience with Sequoia Technologies, and again, like we spoke about last week, this door access project is our second big project we brought to you this year. We brought to you the PA system, which is currently underway, and they're doing that work out in our schools. So this would be the next big IT project through our bond. We talked about last week not only the capabilities of this project, but also the safety and security enhancements of this project. which would allow us to have many features that we currently don't have. Our current system worked great for many years. It's reached end of life, and we've had a lot of internal discussions on cabinet and a lot of internal discussions in our IT world. And Tim was actually a guest speaker at a REAP conference this fall, where he was able to highlight some of our, like Mr. Johnson was just saying about exemplar school districts and school boards. That, well, I believe we have an exemplar IT department, and so we're ready to bring that forth to you for approval next week. Mr. Clan, what are some details that maybe you could add and maybe I've left off last week? You weren't there, right?
I have no idea.
Why don't you give a satellite view for us why you're excited about this project?
Well, just as an example, as we walked in this evening, we noticed that we had to do some creative unlocking of the door here to allow folks in for the meeting, because this building still is functioning on the old door access system. So we had reprogrammed the one at central office tonight to not have that door open, which we can do remotely, and I don't think that was able to happen here in the time frame that we had dealt with this afternoon. So I think part of the benefit to this is bringing our current system up to, I guess, a more technologically advanced current day system. So again, like Bill said, it integrates with our camera systems really well and gives us the ability to remotely arm, disarm buildings, lock, unlock doors, a little more flexibility with the programming that we can do on all those doors. I'm trying to think if there was anything specifically that we had talked about.
Can you speak to a couple of the alternates?
Yes. One of the alternates was the wireless door locks that we were talking about for in the main offices for a few of the buildings. They have an entryway from the hallway into the office, not the main entry at the front, but near the back, primarily the secondary buildings. And I think the goal there was to try to secure those doors just so we don't have students accessing in and out of that, but staff still can come in. So these are, a wireless door lock that uses our current badge system. It can also be programmed for certain times of day to be unlocked if they want. And the nice part about it is it doesn't require the typical wiring that would be involved with a door reader, where you would have to have an electronic strike plate, you'd have to run the wiring to it. This is just a wireless door lock that works off a hub, but it still allows the badge access and the scheduling and everything else. So you replace that lock set in the door, and it becomes a door that we can use for regular access. One of the other items was the license plate reader, or LPR cameras, and these would be cameras that would mount in different locations on primarily our secondary buildings that we're looking at right now. That will actually give us the ability to see license plates at night and during the day of vehicles that are primarily entering or exiting our lots, depending on where the cameras are placed. What else would we have out there?
If you could speak to the entry system, the entry access for parents.
Yeah, the Verkada guest was the other one. We actually have it in place in this building, and we were piloting it here. Basically what it is an iPad connected to a small thermal printer, and when people come in, you can customize that experience that they go through, whether they're a guest, a vendor, a substitute teacher, and it will step them through the process so they can touch on the screen. It'll take a picture of them, they can put their name and information in there, who they're there to see. It prints off a badge for them, and then it also sends them a text message that uses their cell phone to tell them about the Wi-Fi and how to sign out when they're done. It keeps track of them, who's in the building at any particular time, and then also because of the photograph, it allows you to be able to see who was there, and you can also see when they left the building, and if you need to find where they might have gone in the building, you can do that as well. It will also, if they're there to see somebody, if somebody can set this up in advance, as soon as they enter their information, it will contact that person and let them know that their guest is waiting up front. So in certain instances, it could be used here, for parents doing pickup. It also has the ability, we haven't tested it fully yet, to tie into our student information system. So you could use it for student checkout. When a parent comes, they could show their ID, and it will check against the database to see if that person is allowed to pick up that student. And if so, it could notify somebody and have them bring the student down. So it can kind of do that check. It also can use a driver's license to do background checks if needed. those are done instantly. That's not something we've had turned on or used yet in the district, but it is a function that's available with that system. It also, since it ties into the student information system, it can also be used technically for student check-in, student check-out, if we ever got to that point. But right now, it's been primarily used for guest access and logging who's in the building and making sure people have a current badge.
Mr. Clan, last week at the study session, there were quite a few questions about our administrative procedures with that. And as we debrief after each study session, you had mentioned the fact that part of this bid package, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, is we buy the products now, but we can be slow on certain alternates to roll them out. So like we don't have to roll all of this out at one time. Can you explain what that means?
Correct. So we're basically approving the money for those systems, and then we can add them or purchase them as we go. So it doesn't have to be a purchase up front where we purchase that for all 12 buildings or all 24 buildings for the Fortana guest system, and then we can roll that out slowly and try it out and in each building and see how the setup goes. So it's not going to start, the timeline for your 10 years doesn't start until we implement it or we purchase it. So that helps a little bit. It's not an urgent rush type of system. We have to get out there. We can have a little time to try it out and see what works best and how we want to set it up before we push it out to all the buildings.
The things I wanted to speak to that happened this morning at 5:15 a.m. Mr. Cran and I got a notification that there was somebody at our central office complex. We were able to click resolve, and what that did was, it was Mr. Tony, we love Mr. Tony. But we were able to click resolve, and so what that prevented was to have Livonia Fire and Police come to our site. It prevented us from having to have a building supervisor sent out to the site or another person sent out to the site. So it's pretty amazing when we got that notification, we're able to just look at the video clip and then make that decision. You speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, we have that. The full system is in place right now in the admin building. And it does give you that ability. There's been several times where, you might get what would normally be a false alarm. A door rattles too much in the wind, or somebody didn't lock the door and it might pop open enough to trip the alarm. And Verkada is also our monitoring company in that case. So as soon as that happens, they see it live and they can see the cameras, because we have cameras and in our buildings currently on almost all exterior doors. So they can see right away that there isn't anybody. So even though the alarm tripped, they'll actually get that notification, they'll look at it, and in an instance like that, they'll say no person was present, and they just reset the alarm, and it doesn't trip a call out, it doesn't trip our nighttime alarm people to have to come in and walk the building. So it's gonna save us a lot in false alarms that we run into in the building.
We paid about $8,000 so far since October of this year in false alarm. The city.
Oh, wow.
And that doesn't include money we have to pay for professional agreements if we had to send a building supervisor out there as well. So there is a financial cost keeping with the end-of-life system that we currently have.
Yeah. And these systems, as well as the exterior doors being monitored, we can use the cameras on the inside as motion sensors, and they're smart motion sensors because they can tell if it's a person or not. So the current motion sensors we have in the building might trip when a balloon floats down the hall or kid's project falls off the wall and then sets the alarm, and then somebody has to come in and walk the building. That will prevent those from happening as well.
Questions?
Mr. Plan, I believe, if I remember correctly from last week, our current system is from 1999, is that correct?
It's up there, yeah. I don't know if anybody knows the exact date.
Okay, somewhere in the ballpark of.
Yeah.
So kudos, we really do squeak the last life we can out of everything, but this is an enormous, especially in the world of technology, this is just an enormous step forward.
Yes.
I assume also that this will do a much better job of being able to have folks see faces clearly. And therefore, if there is an issue, we have a better tool to resolve it.
Yes, every door access, every swipe or badge swipe on a door that when somebody's accessing the building will be tied to a camera, and it's an event. So you could go back to any door swipe and actually go back and watch the video from that entrance, as opposed to just seeing, whose badge it was that unlocked the door. So.
And last week we had some extensive discussion about the ability to use a driver's license when folks are checking in as a guest to the building, and whether or not that will be the one and only way to do it, or whether they could have just a name and other information entered and verified with staff. What can you tell us about that for those folks who either may not have a license or may not have it with them, or may not feel comfortable utilizing that system?
It's completely customizable on how we want to set that up and what options we want to have for what people can do. But the system has a lot of different ways that it can handle that, and a lot of, even for repeat visitors, if somebody's been checked once and they put their cell phone number back in and it verifies who they are, it will automatically print their badge off. They don't have to re-enter everything every time they come into the building. But as far as the driver's license goes, we can have it where the person behind the desk can do a manual verification of whoever that is, as opposed to not carrying a license.
Excellent, thank you.
Other questions? Mrs. Frank?
My question is just on that. Will we do district-wide so that I don't have to show ID when I go to Hoover, but I do have to show ID to when I go to Coolidge or something like that? Will we, maybe different levels, but standardize across each level?
Yeah, so we really have a lot of conversations still to have on this. So
Yeah.
we are looking to have a system that gives us that option. Whatever we have will be consistent across our schools, and it will be a consistent expectation. And so we have not piloted that here. We would certainly want to, I would assume, pilot that and get feedback from our administrators. I think one of the questions Mrs. Acosta asked was, how many people really are coming in to the point that they need entry into the school building, as opposed to being in the office and picking up a child and then leaving. So I really think we want to take a look at who is accessing to that point, and then does it make sense to go to that next step, or is that not necessary? So we will definitely involve the board in those conversations, but really this was simply to say, do we want that option for that system, whether it's manual or whether it's using a license, and then from there we'll want to have discussion as cabinet with our, and then talk quite a bit with our secretaries, with our building administrators, and then come back to the board with a recommendation. We would definitely be very clear. We wouldn't want parents to be saying, oh, is this a school where I need to have that? Is this a school where I don't? We certainly understand that we would need to be consistent in the district on that. Lots of great questions to think about. I think it's wonderful to have this level of security, whether it's just having the automatic printed labels with the pictures, the information going to the phone about Wi-Fi access. That's also a welcoming piece. So someone's coming in for an IEP, they're going down to a meeting, someone is notified, they can come down and get them. They now know how to get on if they brought their computer onto the system. So partially it is absolutely a safety and security piece, but I think it really also brings us to the next level in terms of welcoming guests into our schools and being prepared, whether it's another superintendent or a board member visiting a school. And as we had last week with friends from Dearborn coming in, utilizing that and then them having access to that automatically. So I think lots of positives around it.
And there's a lot of options too. When they come to check in, you can think if a large group came in, there's a QR code that they can scan with their phone, and they can punch all the information in on their phone. And so they don't all have to wait in line one at a time trying to get in. So there's ways to kind of expedite that.
That'd be fun to go through all those procedures and pilot all those different scenarios, you know?
Yeah, and there's also the other alternate that we accepted was the remaining buildings for the intercom systems. That any of the buildings that don't currently have them will be following up and making sure that they do.
I wanted to ask, this would be a voting item next week. And I also wanted to just, remind the board that we talk a lot about people in our buildings and how they keep our buildings safe. Well, our IT department does an amazing job day to day behind the scenes, whether it's cybersecurity or items like this, and the PA system really to give us those extra layers and really and take us in the modern world, and that's part of our strategic planning that we do as a district. So thank you.
Any other questions over here?
Just when you said intercom system, you were talking about, for those who are listening at home, you're talking about updating our intercom system, because we have one in all of our buildings.
Yes. So we've replaced them right now in about half the buildings roughly, and so we would be coming back and doing the other half as part of this project as well.
I have a couple of questions. This is an all wireless system?
No.
Okay.
It's primarily wired. There are a few items like the door access or the door locks that we talked about at the high schools would be wireless. That and possibly panic switches would be tied into it too.
Okay, so if there's middle of the night, let's say that there's somebody's trying to get into the building, who gets notified?
That we would set up, right now it's typically, the police will be called and then we usually have alarm call staff, I believe, on operations. But right now it would be, Verkada would get notified immediately and then it would send a message to any of us that are
Our
listening.
permission tree, basically.
Yeah.
Whatever permission tree we set up.
Yeah, it could be
Principal,
built,
building supervisor.
Would that be a text or would it be?
it can be text, email, phone call, or a combination of all of the above until they get a hold of somebody. And they can go
Because
through
you
the
do have to
list.
respond, if it's a text.
Yeah.
You need to either
Acknowledge
agree that that's
Right.
an emergency or resolve it, that it's not.
Okay. Another question I have is, this is gonna be on all of the doors in all of our buildings?
That is the goal. We don't necessarily currently have it in every place. We have motion sensors to pick up some doors as opposed to sensors on the doors, but part of this project is to make sure that every exterior door in the district is monitored for that, not only for the alarm system, but the other goal we had was to have those monitored during the day for doors propped open or doors held open too long. So it will, during the day, it will alert a staff member in the building, their administration or the custodial staff if somebody props a door, if the door doesn't close all the way or anything like that.
So if I'm a student in one of our secondary buildings, say one of the high schools, and I'm intent on letting someone in a back door, like way in the back, and I go to that door sometime during the day and I open that door to let somebody in, what's the notification that that's occurring?
So if the door is just open as if someone was leaving the building or coming into the building, it may not necessarily notify anybody right away. It's more of a time frame that we set up. If the door is held open for a period of time, it would send an alert to somebody. You could program it to alert immediately if you wanted to, every time a door was open. But if you think about all the traffic in and out of a building throughout the day, that might be.
And you don't want people to start ignoring those notifications
Yeah.
if it's set too tightly.
Yeah, and the system, the camera systems, since they tie into it, do have the ability to track if somebody swipes their badge and comes in and somebody follows them in. It does have the ability to alert on that as well. So if we really needed it to, so yeah.
Great. Any other questions? We'll put that on for next week.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Plant.
Thank you, Mr. Clement.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go on to item 3B, recommendation regarding Churchill and Franklin High School pool filtration systems.
Okay.
All right, here
We
come the
have,
big hitters.
don't be looking at your dashboard yet, we have pools first. I know you get excited about the dashboard report that comes around.
This is the pool filtrations.
Yes. While those are being passed around, I want to thank Mr. Weber and Mr. Frank from Plant Moran. Real Point being here this evening. Go back in time last summer. You may remember Livonia Stevenson had their pool filtration system upgraded. So that went really well, and we had on our sinking fund projects for this upcoming summer to have Churchill and Franklin's pools and their filtration systems be upgraded. And so as you saw in the packet this evening, you should have had a recommendation letter from from Mr. Frank here, and you should have also had some bid specifications and some additional information for me in a memo, and included with those were drawings. There's pretty much, it looks like, and I'm gonna let the experts in the room here talk to the specifics, but it looks very similar to the filtration system that was put in at Stevenson. I think they've gone from a 4-tank system to a 3-tank, but pretty much, yeah. And so we're very excited to bring this to you. Our ADs are already on it as far as timing out their communication with each other to support our swim teams, to make sure that they have backup plans for the project start and end dates. And so I've been very impressed with Mr. Itu and the ADs that they just have such great partnership. So we're looking forward to that being something that you would look at next week to vote on. there was a formal bid process that occurred, and Berzini, I know, I met the guy last year, and I feel terrible for mispronouncing his name, completed the filtration replacement at Stevenson last year, and it's being recommended for that project next year as well at Churchill and Franklin for $892,000. And we're gonna ask this to be a voting item next week, but before we do that, we'd like to have a little more conversation. So, Mr. Frank, if you'd like to give a little background on this project and the why, and maybe some of the timelines we're thinking.
Yeah, so as Mr. Green mentioned, very similar scope of work to what was completed at Stevenson. This will be at Churchill and Franklin. Timeline for the work, we're anticipating as soon as the full curriculum for the schools is over, thinking late spring, right before school is out. Just doing some final coordination with the schools and making sure that we aren't impacting students for that. We also are coordinating between the two schools so we don't have two pools down at the same time. We just want to make sure that we aren't anticipating impacting the swim season, but in case things happen, it is construction. Things change on a dime sometimes with logistics and supply chains. So we are staggering that so that we can get one pool done for sure. And worst case scenario, we have one pool, but that's not anticipated this year. We did accept 2 of the alternates that were bid. Those are for regrouting the pools. This is a bigger project. The pools aren't rained very often. It's a great time to accomplish this. I think it's been a number of years since either of those pools have been regrouted. We also did this at Stevenson. We took advantage. It was a bit more of a surprise at Stevenson. Once we drained it, we realized that the pool was in worse shape than we thought at Stevenson. We took those numbers up front on this project so that we were prepared for it. And then we also did get a voluntary alternate deduct to keep the VFD system as we did at Stevenson at Franklin High School. So there's a nice savings there because that system is in good shape right now. Overall, we came in under budget. Very excited to complete this project. It's nice to have the same contractors, similar scopes of work. I think Franklin is almost a mirror image of Stevenson, so it'll be very similar, and Churchill's a little bit different, but similar systems overall. Same pool filtration system and medium is going in at all 3 of the schools too, and I know the facilities team is very excited for these new systems because they've put in a lot of hours and work at the pools to keep them going for as long as they have. I think that's all I had. Any questions?
I'm not sure you summarized literally 200 pages of the.
Well, that's next. We're gonna get to that spec.
I can't believe how much.
I just wanted to know.
I want to think we've done entire schools, and I don't think it's this significant.
I just wanted to know how many board members read the 239 pages.
Yeah.
I did not read the 230, but I did look at the pictures and they were so interesting. So thank you for the comprehensive information. It is helpful, but it is helpful to see all of the detail and just all of the work that's gone into it because it is a big investment. And so, but it was interesting to see what all it involves. You just think that you pull up a filter like we do in our home filters. It's clearly not that way.
To supplement what Colin's saying, we did have only one bidder show. We can elaborate, but we did have multiple shows at the pre-bid meeting. Colin did follow up. They just couldn't meet schedule with some of the other bidders. So 1, we were under budget. 2, Bearsy performed very well last year, so we're glad they showed up. But we did reach out and make sure there wasn't anything wacky going on. It was not competitive. It's just a matter of it's a unique contract specialty that there's not a big contractor. So.
Did they have multiple bids for the Stevenson job, or were they the sole bidder for that one as well?
Same thing, they were sole bidder for that.
It was a very under budget is great regardless.
Yeah, Stevenson, we were closer timeline. We got that there was an interesting wrinkle with the 2 different pools on one system there, and a lot of approval processes with Eagle that we had to go through, so we were backed up closer to the start of summer. So a lot of even more contractors were full at that time. And then for this one, I talked with a couple and asked that they submit alternate schedules if they're available to do it. They ultimately decide not to do it.
It's the same thing with pool designers. We had when we were vetting this process to even get designers on board. It's a limited group group of people that actually do this, so with the contractors and designers, we make sure we have buildings, but there's not a lot there.
It is a thick document, but I have to tell you, Terzini, who I didn't say it, hopefully correct this time. When I came on board just in August, Colin and one of the main leads on the Stevenson job took time to just walk me through everything, what they were doing. Down in the tunnel is very exciting. I hope we can take a field trip and show you. It's very exciting, the work when you see it completed. But you know, you don't always get that from companies, that personal touch, and that was something just being new to the role that was very impressive for me.
Terzini also completed as part of the bond program the starting blocks and pool equipment under Clark Construction, so they've been in the district a couple years now. And done well.
Any other questions? Seeing none, that'll be on for next meeting.
Yes, please.
Excellent, thank you. That brings us to item 3C. Oh, here we go, folks.
Yes,
Did
we,
anybody turn-
The moment we've been waiting for.
You guys didn't turn that over yet, did you?
Now are we allowed to?
for those in the crowd today, you heard and saw the excitement as paper was being passed around. Mr. Weber's here to review our quarterly dashboard, and I must say, we've done this 3 times, I think, since August, and we're getting into a good rhythm, and this is just an outstanding way for the Board of Education and everybody to be on the same page where we are with our bond work. And Brian, I'm gonna have you take it away. We're at the February 2026 dashboard report.
Thank you, Mr. Green. So going through the same template as we used previous years, a couple of years now. Top left is a bond program goals and objectives. These are the higher level points are our North Star that have always remained consistent throughout the program that we remain and keep on the dashboard to remind everybody, not only follow but our team to understand what the goals of the program were and we strive towards that. I'll move over to the cost summary tables to the right, walk through some of the columns, and feel free to ask any questions as they come up. So for our cost summary, we break it down by category within the programs between construction and furniture and equipment, technology, finance, monitor that in our software system. And then working across the top, current budget is column A. Those break down by each bucket, totaling down at the bottom to $191,822,166. So our original bond was $186 million. We're also accounting for now, with current figures from today from Ms. Smith, we've accumulated $5.8 million in earned interest on the bond program. So that's why there's a discrepancy or additional funds to the $186 million that passed original. So that is great news that we're going to leverage those dollars and continue and maintain scope on a lot of these programs because that earned interest that we've been monitoring throughout. Moving over to column B, that is the current contracts and purchase orders. These are documents that have been fully signed, executed, and can be billed against from multiple vendors throughout the program. The actual paid is the dollars actually spent, checks cut, and went out the door against those contracts and purchase orders. Column D would be the remaining cost to complete, so that's just B minus C, what remains on those contracts that has not been paid yet to show progress. Column E would be the forecasted contracts and purchase orders. As you can see, these keep dwindling down over the year, but there are some projects we're still forecasting in the next year or so. So it's not a contract currently executed, just something we're forecasting that we're setting aside those dollars for future work.
Mark?
Yes.
So what we're approving, like the technology that's coming, what we just approved with the doors?
Yep.
So is that an E or is that a D?
That is an E. So
Okay.
everything that we've talked about is in column E. In the next month, hopefully that would just shift over once we have vendors approved and then paperwork gets settled into our system. We have processes that are to make sure that we're not actually committing those until it's fully signed and all the paperwork.
That we voted on?
Yep, correct. And F is the unallocated reserve. So this is more of a contingency if there's savings on the job. Right now, we're being conservative. Column E at the bottom, you will see $190,000 there under the contingency. That's just in case we want to be conservative and protect those dollars if something comes up the next few months. We're sitting it there. It's not shown as $190 of quote unquote free money that's not allocated anything. So we will continue to monitor that, working with the bond team and administration. If there's times we need to shift that over to a true unallocated reserve, we'll do that in the next few months, I assume, or later in the year. And the last column is the forecasted over-under. So good news that we are forecasting on budget. Our big hurdles are behind us, I would say, but we've taken all of our major bid packages with Clark, with the work that's going on in 2026, inherently, there will be contingencies in dollars and cents that do get captured. That'll be future discussion of how those are utilized, whether it's purchase of equipment or if there's any small projects that can be addressed around that program. So for right now, we're leaving them as forecasted costs and addressing them as they come available. That table rolls down into the cash flow finances, so you'll see to the right that $186 million of construction proceeds, all the way to the right in the top, the $5.8 million of earned interest, totaling 191. And then we are showing the $34,425,000 in the bottom right is cash available, so that's the cash in hand with the district that can be used to pay the remaining funds. So we have sold all 3 series of the bond, and all the money is available for us, so we're in good shape for the cash flows. Great. Questions on finance? Wrapping this up for critical items and program phasing. High level right now, our main focus is working with Mr. Green and the staff. We've had quite a few good meetings in the last couple of weeks we're now planning for this coming summer. Tracking long lead items, critical products, materials that take weeks, months to get. Those are on order, working with the architect, Dan Clark. And then also the big lift right now is putting together schedules for staff to see, logistics plans for staff to see. Mr. Green's working tightly for move in and move out. It's the big lift for the buildings that are coming their way that we want to make sure that we're communicating now. Nobody's caught off guard in the coming weeks and months that there's going to be some activity at Garfield, at Webster, at EG, that we have a good communication plan in place. So right now it's within the walls of our bond team. Within the next week or two, it's going to start dispersing out, talking to staff with the plans that we've approved as a team and roll out.
I imagine that'd be something I would want to have a little update for you at the March study session, just to give you a little idea of the timelines for the upcoming summer work.
Mrs. Bradford.
Thank you. At Garfield Community School, will we be doing any work prior to the close of the school year that might impede the students that are there? Because I know that renovating might be something that would be difficult for the students that are at that. In that building.
Yep, so Mr. Lau and myself and Ms. Feigl met last week. We are, like Mr. Weber said, we've been probably since the fall in our architectural design and in our walkthroughs. I've been communicating this message, but they are going to be losing about 6 rooms starting in March.
Okay.
And they know which ones those are, and so part of the reason is it's all logistic, it's all timing, it's all getting work done so you can store things in other areas, get that work done, and then the rest of the work will be done over the summer. So we have a document that we share internally where schools put big community events on there. So anything that is happening in the spring, we don't interfere with that. So if it's a big spring event and they need to use the gym, our construction workers stay away that night. We don't do any work in those areas. We also have in our plans that Mr. Weber was talking about, we also look at our staging areas on the outside of the building, like where will our construction areas be, where will we have equipment stored so it doesn't interfere with the normal patterns of student traffic, adult buses and things like that. So I think that we've had 4 meetings in the last 2.5 weeks on this topic, and the schools, I feel, well informed. What's also nice is we're going to have a pre-construction meeting with the building principals, Mrs. Keats and Mr. Itu, and Ms. Rao, as it relates to any of the buildings they may be directors for. So
I think your question was specific to the students at Garfield, and so there is a section of the school that is not necessarily current classroom space, but it is utilized for some of our new programs like Garfield Garments.
Okay.
And things like that we'll have to close earlier so that if they can get a head start on that wing, it will keep us on the timeline that we need. Those were rooms that they had requested some special work be done in that area. So while we're really excited about the food pantry and the Garfield Garments, it will be truncated a bit this year, but reopen with a lot of fanfare again in the fall. But that should not unduly impact the students' day-to-day experience. It really will impact more some of the community service opportunities we've been able to do.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
And just to drill down a little more from a physical standpoint, it is a separation of the building where it's not adjacent to classrooms. It's an isolated area. There will be a temporary wall there, and there won't be any interaction between workers or students, but also from understanding a noise standpoint and sensory issues that was discussed.
Great, thank you so much.
Any other questions? I just go back, make sure I understand. We've got, under technology, we've still got 15 million. And we've got a contingency of 190. When we do the security technology stuff, right now that's proposed to be 2.1 million with 200,000 contingency. The next quarterly that we do, will we see that reduction then in column E to the tune of 2.1 million, so it's gonna take it down to 13 something?
Yes.
Are we gonna then see an increase in the contingency of 200?
Not until we capture, until the project is complete, and we don't, the contingency that you're approving within that $2 million is all within the 15 million. Once that project is completed, there's leftover contingency dollars after that, that's when the decision's made to roll it down into the one contingency.
Okay.
So we keep, even with our construction lines, if you look at the construction column E, the $845,000, that is previously approved construction contingency that we still need to get through the summer to make sure we don't, whatever's left over from that would then roll into a true contingency.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood where and how things were being moved. Okay, thanks.
I couldn't tell you every dollar, but the 190 does consist of small projects in previous years that were done. We all agreed, let's roll down and order contingency, it's not needed to do much already.
Thanks. Anything else? Okay, thank you again for,
Overall, good news, we're doing well on the bottom, so it's good news right now. A lot of good stuff going on.
This is not for next week, but
No.
I do believe we'll get some follow-up at the March study session on timelines for Public Works 2026, okay?
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Weber.
Good evening.
Okay, that brings us to the last item under 3, recommendation from Marshall Raising. Mr.
Okay,
Green.
thank you. Thank you for having me back. You should see in your packet tonight a letter from me about Marshall's Raising, a letter of recommendation on the demolition, and also a letter from NTH giving you some of the details of the Raising project. And I must say, I really do appreciate the Board of Education and Mr. Francis and others that started this conversation over a year ago that we had about the future of Marshall Elementary School and as it related to the end of use of that building from a mechanical and operational standpoint. If you just to build community background, we had conversations over the past year with our leasee at the time, the Learning Tree, and we had conversations with the Board of Education about the condition of Marshall. And for our community that might just be tuning in tonight, this isn't something that we're just bringing last week to the study session. I really need them to understand that this has been a long conversation. And as I think I mentioned in the study session, I have an emotional attachment to Marshall. It was the school I was student taught at and I was hired at, and it needs to come down. So all things can be true at the same time. So the school was closed back in 2003, actually, if you were wondering about a little of the history of it. It was a K-6 school at the time, and it was really, I would say, the school, Ms. Oquest knows this better than me, that was really the first signal that we needed to do something even more than that. And the Legacy Initiative came a few years later, but Marshall was closed due to continuous decline in enrollment. What a wonderful school it was, and we were lucky for many years to have the Garfield Co-op and the Learning Tree as great leases in that building. But each of those have moved on. Garfield Co-op is now at Garfield Community, and it makes sense, doesn't it? And the Learning Tree, while they had an opportunity to continue with us, as we spoke about at other buildings, they made some decisions to have their business located at a new location on 7th and Newburgh, and we wish them well. They did a great job in cleaning out the space at Marshall for our teams to get in there and start doing some inspections. So as we spoke about last week, we had a bid for Raising. We had quite a big bid coverage, as you'll see in the packet. Adamo Group is going to be the recommended lowest responsible bidder. Very much under budget we came on this. We were anticipating it to be around the high 5s to 600s. So that was great news.
Which really bore out when you look at the spread of bids.
Yeah.
This was a really unusual spread of bids, but there was quite a cluster in the area where we initially budgeted.
They have a great past history with us doing some other work for our buildings. You'll see that some of the things we talked about last week is there'll be a construction fence on site. There's gonna be a mud mat on the property, so as trucks come onto Curtis, that captures a lot of the debris, so it doesn't go onto Curtis. These are basic things that we've seen in multiple raising projects, but you might not remember those from the past ones that we've done. Air monitoring is ongoing during the demolition. Bricks are gonna be placed on the site for people that have a connection, so some of us on the room we'll make sure we get a brick. We're gonna be able to preserve the east sidewalk that runs all the way from Livonia Stevenson up through to the Marshall property. We will be, Ms. Jenkins is already working on a wonderful communication letter that we'll be mailing to residents that live in those surrounding neighborhoods, giving them a little background, point of contact. We have already talked to the city on this. There's some parts that need to be returned to Greenbelt on Curtis that were some parking areas up front. One of the reasons this bid came in pretty nice is there are no tunnels at Marshall. Sometimes that adds to the cost of demolition. We're going to be able to right now. We're going to probably, Mr. Itu and I have already been talking about it along with the Stevenson administration. Right now it looks like we're going to be able to keep the chute open based on where the security fence is for the students at Stevenson as they enter the back chute to go and park that way. But we're going to monitor that, and then if we get advice otherwise, we can work with the Stevenson administration to change that. But I felt pretty confident talking to NTH and Mr. Lau that that'll be able to continue. The lighting poles there from DTE, we're going to keep those on site for right now. Once the project's completed, LPS will handle the permanent fencing. And Mr. Clan is going to be doing some drone footage of Marshall pre and Marshall during and Marshall after, kind of document that. And like you already heard, the playground last week we talked about, we're going to be able to save it. Did you hear that? So good news. We're going to be able to save it for a couple of years. It had a good inspection, and we feel confident that we'll be able to keep that. After we did our homework and heard the feedback, we had Mr. Roberts had a company out the next day inspecting it. And we were able to then talk to NTH, who did all the design work for us, and they are going to be able to preserve that in their demo scope. So that's going to be nice, and it's going to
shift the fencing.
Yep, we're going to have to shift the fencing a little bit so it's still accessible to the community in that neighborhood, but still preserve the fencing around the back part of Stevenson. So all good news. We're looking forward to this being a voting item next week. We're looking forward to this being a big rock that we've been talking about and closing the loop on this for the past year and a half. And we're going to make sure we communicate to the community anything they need to know as well. So this is the time of year we want to approve these things, and early spring is when we want to get this work done. So.
Mrs. Bradford.
Yeah, I just have a question on the pricing of that. What is like the difference? Like, I think some of those, it really ranged. Is it more, are they doing more, the other companies or the pricing, or is it just, that's just how
they're big dogs in the industry. They can handle the work. They can get that price. They have, Adamo has a past relationship with our district.
Okay.
They wanted this job. They were passionate in the bid project. I mean, they, sometimes it's what a company's size looks like, what kind of manpower, what their experience is in the field. So.
Sometimes they'll throw out a net and say, if I can get it, I'll get it. I mean, we've seen that with some companies that they may have enough work, but think, well, if I can get this price for it, I'll bring on some additional staff and take it on. It's a great question because this is a huge spread for the bids, and I think we'd probably have even more question had we not had direct experience with them. But there were not additional alternates. This is what was, at the pre-bid, and what was in the bid is what the project is. And so I do think sometimes when there is a lot of work to be done, sometimes folks will cast a wide net and see what they can garner.
Okay, appreciate it.
Other questions? Yes, Mrs. Bird.
This is a building that's near and dear to my heart because my kids spent most of their collective elementary years at Marshall, so it is very special to me. I agree also, same as you just said, Mr. Green, that it is time it does need to come down. For the benefit of those in the public who may not be as knowledgeable about it, have not been following along with it, we're taking it down, it would cost $3 to $4 million of K-12 money to renovate that building and bring it up to speed. And if we're not going to be using it for a K-12 purpose,
Correct.
that's money that we should not be putting into a building just to put it into a building and keep it open. We need to use those dollars for our kids that are in our district right now. We don't anticipate needing that building in the next many years. And if we don't put the 3 or 4 million into it, we would have an even larger amount of money that we'd have to do to bring it up to code. So it needs to come down. We also don't want to have a vacant building sitting on our grounds, because that's just a target for vandalism or other undesirous behavior that can unfortunately happen. Huge thank you to you, Mr. Green, and huge thank you to Carl Roberts for so very, very quickly getting that playground looked at, because
Mr. Francis sent the text during the meeting, I think he was on it that night.
oh my gosh, seriously, the folks in that neighborhood, I mean, I know because I still live there, I am one of the neighbors. We've emotionally disconnected from the building. It's been closed as a K-12 building for long enough that part is that little sadness is healed. But the playground is still used by the folks in the neighborhood so often that if that can stay, that's a huge, huge win. So my sincere thanks to Carl Roberts, to you, Mr. Francis, to Mr. Green, for jumping on that and taking that request really seriously. If we can squeak a number of X number of years of life out of it, when it's deemed unsafe, then it's deemed unsafe and it needs to come down. And I recognize that those things are expensive to put up, so we can't just keep replacing them. But for the time being, if it's still safe and usable by the neighborhood, thank you. Yeah. That's a big deal.
Absolutely. I was just to interrupt for a moment, and the rest of the board can hear this. People will have the next question will be the following: so what is LPS going to do with this property? And you'll all be asked that question. And my answer is very standard. It's just like with Marshall's raising process. Those were public meetings that we talked about for over a year, and when we make a decision to do something different than return it to green space, which is our current plan, those will be things that we publicly discuss with our board like we do all properties. So just wanted you to all know that in case, well, you won't in case you'll get asked that question.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
So we have no, I mean, the answer to that is we are leaving it open at this time. There is no plan. It being a large piece, it's a continuous piece of property from Stevenson all the way back to Curtis Road. Those are not typically pieces that we chunk off. But I'm glad that we're leaving it open for the community use at this time. The east sidewalk is another big victory for the neighborhood, because that's utilized a lot. For those who may not be aware, that it takes folks from Curtis Road and that whole neighborhood, you can follow that sidewalk all the way up to 6 Mile. So it is a big walking path. Yeah, it is a big, it's highly trafficked, so thank you for being able to keep that. The parking areas, I lost you for a bit there. What is and is not going to be able to remain?
There's a parking lot right in the front that was added on some years back that's actually part of the easement of the city that they allowed us to
right
use.
In front of the little Marshall sign.
And that would just be returned to the city. And that's in the design. It's part of it's part of Curtis Road, basically, that easement piece.
Okay, so it's not gonna be, it's gonna be part of, I mean, the road's not gonna turn into that.
No, it'll just be, it won't be our property line any longer. It'll be, initially in the drawings, it was the city of Livonia property. At some time, we needed that property to put a parking lot in. It'll be returned back to that green belt for the city.
Okay, so that little strip is gonna be no longer parking.
Correct.
But it's not gonna be in front of a building anymore, so it's not necessary really.
Needed, yes.
The parking lot on the west side that butts up against the woods, is that going to remain? Basically between the playground structure and where the woods begins?
There is a section of parking that will remain there, yes.
And that remains there? Okay, that's fabulous, because then folks who even want to drive over, if they're several blocks away, to utilize the playground can still do that, so that's terrific. Those are big wins for the neighborhood, so thank you very much. And that, as you referred to it, the chute to Stevenson, that is enormously helpful for traffic flow, because having everybody trying to go out onto 6 Mile from Stevenson to
Oh,
say
yeah.
congested is not even quite the word, and we
I
all
think
know
that
that.
option was
It's-
available when my kids went there.
It is helpful, when it's, and everybody in the neighborhood knows it's not always unlocked and available, but when it is, it's really helpful for not only school traffic, but for games and so forth, football games and soccer games and such, so, thank you very much, I really appreciate it, I totally recognize that the building does need to come down, but you guys have gone out of your way to preserve what's important to the neighborhood in that process, and it is very appreciated.
No problem.
Any other questions? So that'll be on for
Next week.
23rd.
Sorry.
We will not have anything.
That's right, we're not
Two
doing it.
weeks.
We know what you meant.
2 weeks from now.
Madeline's got it.
Thank you for giving us next week off. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you, appreciate all the time.
And with that, President Burton, that concludes Operations Committee.
Thank you very much. Turn it over to Mrs. Acosta for the Division of Instruction Committee. Mrs. Acosta.
Mrs. Acosta, may I have a point of pride? I thought we'd made the change on the agenda. Point of privilege, point of pride.
Yes, always.
Thank you. I thought we made the change, but I would like to request that item D be moved ahead of the remaining items. We do have Mrs. Jen Corey, our elementary curriculum coordinator, here with us this evening. And if we could tackle that item first in our agenda of items under the Division of Instruction, I would sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. I see your microphone before you start the presentation.
Yes, so,
Beautiful.
thank you.
Good evening, how are you all?
Good.
I'm great. I am bringing an elementary math textbook recommendation, which we haven't had in over 15 years. So, I summarized a little bit in our memo and I shared with you Jen's committee's recommendation. So I'm gonna give a little bit of background, then Jen's gonna talk about what the committee did. We do have copies of the student book here, that we can share. Are you short one?
Yes.
Oh. Here you go. Thank you. I knew I had nothing. That's great. So we knew, about fall of last year, we were gonna begin a project of looking at new elementary mathematics curriculum resources. We received a grant from Wayne County RESA to partner with Ed Reports. You may recall that I've brought up Ed Reports here before. They are a non-biased group of educators that review curriculum resources for alignment to the Common Core state standards. And so that's become part of our process, is we only look at books that are all green on Ed Reports. And there were several in elementary mathematics, and Jen and her committee of teachers reviewed materials, and after working and getting some professional development from Ed Reports and then reviewing materials, they chose 2 textbooks to pilot, and we began that pilot around this time last year, around March maybe. And rather than rush the process, we wanted to finish the year using Envision, and this year start the year using Bridges. Those were our 2 pilot materials. And I'm gonna let Jen tell you a little bit about how that process went and how they came up with their recommendation.
The theme of this whole process was we haven't had a new textbook in 15 years, so we're going to take our time and we're going to make sure we do this thoroughly and follow the process. So that's why we did carry over into the next year, because we wanted to make sure that we were doing this thoughtfully. So as Teresa said, we chose 2 to pilot. And one was Envision, and then one was Bridges. And then after we piloted Envision, there were a lot of concerns about that particular product. Even though it did receive all green marks, we didn't feel the engagement was high. We felt it was a lot of sit and get. So we felt like, we really needed to look at the next product. And so we had some pretty good pilot training set out to do 3 units this year. So, and it was a unanimous decision. I've never seen teachers more excited about a product, yeah, ever.
Oh, wow.
When I went into classrooms, one of the things that stood out to me, excuse me, was the engagement. The students were so engaged. Every single student in every classroom was engaged. So that was the thing that really stood out to me. The other thing that the teachers all said was that they had learned so much more in this same period of time than the students had in previous years. The learning outcomes were incredible. And the vocabulary that the students were using, the math conversations that they were having, the way they shared their thinking and explained their thinking, they were like these little grown-up mathematicians, you know, in each grade level that it went into. So the excitement among the teachers, that was definitely there, but going in and seeing the students and just, you know, the level of engagement was amazing.
So this program, this math program has 2 parts and they're integrated. So there's a 60-minute core instruction piece, and then there's an additional 20-minute number corner piece. And so Jen, can you tell us a little bit about what makes that number corner? I mean, I think core instruction, you know, both of them, but yeah, specifically number corners.
Right, so the number corner and the Bridges sessions, they work together as a system. So if we look at number corner, it's a 20-minute math workout, so to speak. There are 5 elements to the number corner. You've got a calendar grid, you've got a calendar or a data collector, and then you have a problem-solving piece to it, a number line, and then math fluency. So you've got 5 different components here, and you're either introducing a topic or reinforcing a concept or extending a concept. And this is essentially where your spiral is built in. So if you are introducing a concept during this number corner, you're then going to focus on that topic 2 units from then. And then you're going to be able to refer back to the learning that you learned throughout that month of number corner. You'll refer back to some of the data that you collected, and then that allows you to distribute the learning across the year. So you're either reinforcing something you've already learned, you're introducing a concept that you're going to be focusing on in more depth later down the road, or sometimes you're even extending the learning, so you're deepening the conceptual understanding. So that sort of serves as your spiral. If you recall that from our Everyday Math series, we talk a lot about spiral, and that's where you get the spiral, which is in the number corner. It is a teacher-led, also a student-led time. So sometimes you'll actually see a student get up and lead part of the learning. It's very active, so it's not like we used to think of like calendar time. It's not like that. It's very, very rigorous, engaging, and it's a really critical piece of the lesson. And then you have the unit, which is your 60-minute unit, and that's where you're going to learn your concepts for the month. In that unit, you're going to have teacher-led, inquiry-based instruction. You're going to have students working independently, also working in partners, and then most importantly, coming back as a whole class and sharing your learning and sharing your thinking as you are working through problems.
So I'm going to pass around a couple of the books just so that you can see what is in a student book. There is also, here, you can load out there. So this program fits into our day. We have 75 minutes set aside for math, taking into account that calendar piece that the lower L has used. So it's just a little bit longer that we would need to find a little bit. So we feel like that was a conversation about fitting it in, making sure that we still had our literacy block, our intervention block, and knowing with a new program, we might spend a little bit longer to begin. So I gave you a little bit of an overview from the company and just a sample of materials that come with the kit. So that's a second grade sample of the manipulatives and materials that would arrive for each teacher. So we would have a plan this spring to begin to talk about collecting old materials and manipulatives, and then getting teachers their materials before school ends for the year so that they could kind of be prepared for that. This purchase does not have a student platform. There is games built into it, but it has a teacher-led platform, so they'll be using their projector and their interactive whiteboard, but students won't be on a Chromebook to be doing their mathematics at kit 4. That's not what this program comes with.
So will they be doing it through this then?
So that'll be their student journal.
Okay.
And so much like everyday math, these are actually a little bit smaller and a little bit less expensive actually than everyday math student journals. So they are consumable, and our recommendation is to purchase. So in the year 1 purchase, we get all the teacher materials and the first year of student journals. And then we're recommending buying that second year worth of journals because we do have some grant money that we can utilize to help with this cost.
A lot of the learning that takes place during the lesson is actually manipulative based. So they're working through a lot of the learning through their manipulatives, through talking with each other, through what's projected on the screen through the educator site. And then when they get to the end to solidify their learning and do some independent practice, that's when the student journal.
So how long will the student journal last?
Well, that's one of the 2. There's
Right.
2 a year.
2 a year?
So, yes, and
Yeah, we brought a sample of one, the first one for each one.
Okay.
Yes?
actually, and at the K1, there's actually 3 journals on the early grades because they wanted the students to have less to have to hold and manipulate. So they actually have 3 journals.
I can see how this would be engaging for students, because these are fun.
Yeah.
And all, half math lesson type thing, half game.
Yeah.
So you can tell these are fun, and these would be engaging for little kiddos to get involved with, and it's a great way to get their attention and keep it.
Yeah. So it's just so.
That's excellent.
Definitely designed to hold their attention.
Yeah, Mrs. Frank, thank you. I'm so excited about this, just for the next phase for our curriculum and math and what we're doing. So I'm so thrilled with this, and just the planning that's gone into it and looking at it and what it, preparing our teachers and letting them have summer with it and all those pieces. I just have a couple questions. So there's nothing online, is that what you said, the platform, there's no student piece online? So from a parent's perspective, right, they come home and they have questions about their homework, their assignment. I can tell you how I did it, but I don't know if that's how you're learning it. So are parents is there a resource for parents to kind of help them navigate it?
So there is a home connection piece.
Okay.
There are parent letters that teachers can access on the educator site. They're nice, colorful parent letters with explanations of the concepts for the month, with some very, friendly language that can support parents with explaining this to kids. Then there is actually resources that you can access right on site, like a home connection, practice. So there's actually student pages that a teacher can print out as needed for students. So there's 2 separate pieces, the parent letter and then some home practice options.
That's online?
Yes, it's on
online.
No, it's actually on the educator site for the teacher. So then what the teachers were doing, the pilot teachers, is they downloaded the parent letters and linked it to their newsletter. So the newsletter that was sent out electronically had all of that. Teachers would just click on the link, parents would click on the link and they would have that.
Okay.
And then any practice that goes home, they would have that option too.
I think as we've spoken in here before about HomeLink books and their level of completion, this is a great reset opportunity to say, so if we share information in our newsletters, if we, provide that every so often within a unit to parents that they have some of those more practice pages at home. So I think this first year could be a way for us to gauge how much we need that rather than print something, a whole booklet that goes home, which we've been doing for years. Instead, let's see what's needed as we grow and we inform our parents and, it's shared at open house. I think this is a great time for us to say, so, this is what we believe about homework. We want to give you some information, but we also, just that balance of here's a reset with that. And then if there's a strong need for it, it's certainly a part of the platform and we can consider going back to something like that. But I actually think as we inform our parents of the why, the problem solving, the interaction pieces, I think maybe that will be helpful and they won't feel like they don't understand.
And I think, thank you, I think that's great. And so there will be a kind of a thoughtfulness of how much homework is sent home and how much like about that. And then the other piece is we are looking for this long term, right? This is going to be something that we're going to hopefully, stay with for a season as we get used to it. 10 years or 15, like you said, with everything that, but something that hopefully we can sink into and it'll be beneficial for our, not just for the next 2 years and next couple of years, but this is something that we're hoping is going to be taught for many years to come.
So our initial purchase for the platform is a 5-year license, is that correct?
Well, we have that option, yes. We certainly have the option.
Okay, so for the $16.50.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
yes.
that's what I
Those
thought.
are the,
Yeah, so for the access to Bridges instruction, so we're purchasing a 5-year license to access that, and then 2 years worth of journals. The other quote that you have in your packet is the pilot materials, they didn't charge us for shipping. So there was a separate quote for that just because there was a zero shipping cost on that. Those teachers already have those materials, we're just now paying for them after. So our goal is certainly, just like with every textbook, we usually start with a 5 to 6 year license that we review. We typically then say 3 more years and then we do a full review. That's the process we've been working on in the last 10 years. I've been in this job 9 years. We'll say 9 years.
Thank you.
I just had a question on evaluating and grading. Is there testing days or how do they evaluate the math and how they make progress?
so you mean how do we assess the student
Yeah,
progress?
whether it be
Yes.
assessments
Yeah.
or,
There's a whole series of different kinds of assessments for different purposes. So there's a screener at the beginning of each unit, and that helps the teacher gauge what their readiness is and where they might need to go a little deeper and maybe where they can move a little faster. So you've got the screener, and then they have checkpoints, and there's typically 2 checkpoints within the module which in the unit itself. And then there's an end of unit assessment as well. What's really nice is within the teacher's guide, there are recommendations for student work samples, specific ones to collect, to use formatively. And then in the guide, there are a series of student samples of answers. So that's been really helpful. The pilot teachers, they know at this point we're going to collect it. This is when we can meet as a PLT and look at this specific piece of work. And then there are all these different solutions and ways that students might respond and might answer these questions and what that interpretation is. So it's a very, very useful guide to teachers. So it's screener at the beginning, 2 checkpoints, work samples to collect, and then an end of unit assessment.
thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mrs. Costa. Mrs. O'Brien, you mentioned the the consumables are 2 years,
We're purchasing 2 years worth of consumables, yes.
so 2 years, you'll come back and ask for another, whatever, 2 years or 3 years. Okay,
So typically we do try to see how much we use the consumables. We've had that before. Even with anything that's, we're trying not to waste papers today. So again, it gives us the opportunity, everything's in the teacher platform, so a teacher can print page after page. This is much more convenient for a student, a parent, and the teacher, but we want to make sure that if we move units around or whatever, it helps us with our pacing and with our data collection of what's utilized. We want to make sure we're being fiscally responsible. So we're going to start with 2 years. We'll review. Our anticipation is we're going to buy more, but we just want to make sure we're being smart.
okay, thank you.
Mrs. Bradford.
I'm sorry, I have another question. So we've piloted this with several of our staff. What type of training will our staff receive prior to implementing the program?
So there is a very robust training, professional development platform.
Okay.
There's a 6-hour getting started training. That's an in-person training. There's a K2 version and a 3-4 version of that training. Also, there is an asynchronous series of modules that they recommend teachers start with, and that's a foundational training, and it's by grade level. So a first grade teacher can take this 90-minute getting started overview. Here's our philosophy, here's what we believe, here's what instruction looks like in your specific grade level. And then there's a getting oriented to your materials, the best way to organize them, the best way to utilize them. That's like a 45-minute version. And then there's also training modules that they can take later in the school year. So they take this, this asynchronous work, they have a 6-hour training, then they get started for a few units, and then they can start taking additional training modules. There's assessment modules, there's intervention modules, so there's that kind of training that they can continue to take. Then there's also training for the leaders. So there's training for administrators, curriculum leaders, that helps principals get an overview and also know what they should be looking for as they're walking through classrooms and working with teachers and how they can support them through their language they use with the teachers. So it's, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I guess my other follow-up would be, will the teachers have a professional development day specifically for math? Or is this done on their own time, or when will they be trained in order to implement the program prior to doing it?
So once it's approved, we have 2 more district PD, district teams days left this year, April and May. So, beginning to step into it before we leave for the summer is always a great thing for our planners. So we have some teachers who want to be planned and already have all their stuff ready for the first 2 units, and then we'll have others who will be like, I want to know in August. So we have a district PD day in August, and then we'll have 4 more district PLT PD days throughout the year. It's just always competing.
Sure.
Things,
we all
if
know
something
how
comes up and might interrupt this,
yes, we all know how stressful it is on our teachers to get a new program in. So
Sure, right.
I'm just thinking of our staff and making sure that they'll have ample opportunity to be able to be prepared prior to implementing the program. It's
We'll
just-
make sure they are.
Okay, perfect.
I've been thinking about that a lot.
Oh, for
Yeah, she has.
For sure. I know you are. I just know as a former teacher,
Yeah.
when you're talking a brand new math program and curriculum, and I'm sure Mrs. Acosta can attest to that, she's also in the educational field, it puts your hackles up as a teacher. You're just like, oh my goodness, we've got a new program coming on. And I think and this is a big one because it's math. So I just want to make sure that our staff will be prepared and feel like they're ready to roll when the program starts, so.
Mrs. Bradford, they're gonna be so happy. They said there won't be any hackles. We're
I-
just gonna
I'm sure there
to
won't.
do something. I'm just kidding.
No, but-
There's always both the worry of change
Yes,
and the people who are ready, who have said
Yes.
we've done everything up for a very long time. I'm ready for something new, and
and
we
then
have a great
those who
plan
are
for both
holding
of
on
us.
and just aren't really, oh my goodness, it's overwhelming. So you're just thinking of the teachers, and I'm glad you are all thinking of them and how to implement the best way, because it's a big undertaking to switch over to a brand new math program, for sure.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Next on to
It's gonna be.
Thank you for letting me jump ahead.
I did look at the probably the book and I got you the head.
Oh,
Maybe we can even.
Was that kindergarten one?
Thanks for bringing those books too.
Yes, thank you,
Whoever,
Jennifer.
those books are great to see. Great.
Yeah.
I don't wanna forget my bag.
Oh, don't forget to
No,
do
because they're gonna steal
that.
it.
You may not get it back.
Yeah, exactly. We'll keep it for you. We'll take good care of it.
Okay, so we're gonna come right back up to item 4A, schools of choice, 105, 105C. Ms. Pete.
Hello all, I have paper copies because at the last minute, the screen is not working like we had hoped it would. And you will notice that they are black and white instead of color.
Oh, boy.
It's
okay. It's okay.
Being very fiscally responsible.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Rainforest is taking off to keep the day.
What's that?
The rainforest is taking it off to keep the day.
All right, so good evening, everyone. I am back, ready to talk about school choice offerings for next school year. I was gonna say this school year, but next school year, it's all happening all at once, it seems. So last week at our study session, we spent quite a bit of time talking about school choice, what we offer here in Livonia, some of our past history, as well as what the recommendations will be for this year based on our philosophy as a cabinet team and as a school district. So I am going to continue with the information that we did talk about last week off camera, so those watching can hear it. So school choice is something that is not new to Livonia. We do offer limited schools of choice, meaning we do offer a select number of seats. We are not open to anyone and everyone. In the past, our number has been bigger than it is currently, and I'll go through some of those numbers. We offer 105 and 105C. So our 105, section 105 permits local school districts to enroll students who reside within Wayne County. And then we offer 105C, which allows students to enroll from contiguous counties. So that's especially important when we're talking about Clarenceville, which borders us, especially important when we're talking about Novi, Farmington, when we're thinking about schools like Niji, Webster, and even Coolidge to an extent, being so close to those borders as well. So that is some of the past and the difference between the two. So in your packet, I am on the 4th page talking about head counts by grade level. So what is very, very apparent, yes, these numbers are rounded as far as the percentages go, but our percentage of students young 5 through 6 is almost the same percent in each grade level. So that's saying we're doing a very good job sticking with our cabinet philosophy, our district philosophy about limited schools of choice, balancing those students across the grades, not overloading one particular grade with school of choice students. So I'll let you look over those numbers. And please pause me if you have any questions. I know we did look at these in great detail last week.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed based on this information. The next slide talks about our secondary students, and you'll see those percentages also are in line with what our young 5s through 6th grade percentages are. So again, we're keeping up with what our philosophy is. slide 6 is really interesting as it shows the year-over-year comparison of our registrations that were captured for limited school of choice students. So the first year is the 2020-2021 school year, where we captured 112 registrations. And comparing that to last school year, actually this school year, last registration cycle, we only captured 64 registrations. That's not to say that others didn't express interest. It comes down to oftentimes when school of choice families apply, they're also applying in other school districts. So they may be on our wait list. While they're waiting on our wait list, they may be accepted to another school district. They take that offer from another district, and then they withdraw from Livonia Public Schools. So that is something that we have seen in the last couple of years that I've been working with Mr. Green from my HR lens and his elementary programs lens. It fluctuates that way.
And we also took many fewer students at any grade besides K1.
That's correct.
So if somebody was hoping for a 4th grade slot, we took very few additional beyond K1.
Very true. And the next slide illustrates that. Right on cue.
Nice.
So if you're looking at our young fives, we captured 2 students, kindergarten and 1st grade. So we have 36 and 9, by far the greatest number. Previously, we would accept through 8th grade. We cut back on that about 2 years ago. Now our mission is to stick with 6th grade, and that's really a sibling preference if we want to go up that high. So if students are enrolled, say in kindergarten and they have a sibling, we will accept them in 6th grade. So kindergarten, 1st grade, we are really strongly believe that when we get students here at a younger age, we can intervene with them early. We know where their skills are. They are immersed in our curriculum, and they progress through the grades. So we would love to have them in kindergarten. We'd love to have them in 1st grade. The next slide after that shows that we did capture 1 student in 7th grade, and that was a sibling preference that we did take last year. So based on our trends, based on our rationale as a cabinet team, I am recommending to accept up to 125 students through 105, 105C for this current registration cycle for the 26-27 school year. I have to get used to saying that. It's like writing that check in January. People still write checks. So this would balance our needs at the lower grades. It sticks with our philosophy of starting the students young and allows us to continue to offer seats at Webster and EG for those magnet programs. So the window for Niji and Webster will be the same window as for all of our registrations. We have aligned them all, so it's much easier rather than thinking, okay, what program is open to registration now? We have them all aligned, and they will begin on March 2nd. Typically it would be the 1st, but the 1st is a Sunday, so March 2nd starts the window. At that time, people can apply. On April 10th, there will be a lottery if that is necessary. Chances are it will be necessary. It's always been necessary since my time here. And then we will start contacting families whose names were pulled in the lottery to gather their interest, and we will fill seats. One thing I talked about in great detail last week was that we are very careful when we are placing students, that we do not want to put a class size over the cusp of for a particular grade level. We wouldn't want to enroll so many students at one particular school and have it mean that we would need to hire another teacher, because that kind of negates what we're trying to do by capturing the students of school of choice. We've kind of wiped out the benefit that way. If all 125 students accepted and we had spaces for them all, we would bring in additional revenue of approximately $1.25 million. Now that is the highest we could go, and we are saying we'll offer at least 1 seat in young fives through 6th grade, not to exceed 125. We do not need to take 125, but we do have that option, okay? Again, this is to help balance out enrollment. It's to allow, sometimes we add school of choice students because we want to be able to maintain 4 sections of kindergarten at a specific school. It could maintain a staff member's position at a certain school, so they don't have to, you know, constantly be transferred to another building. But it's also what's best for the students, the staff, and the whole community at a particular school. So I talked about the timelines, and I'll readdress the timeline. So our window opens on March 2nd. It's a 30-day application process, and this is all dictated by Wayne RISA guidelines. It's not something that we arbitrarily put out into, onto the website. We follow all of the guidelines that are set forth for us. Notice is already posted on our website indicating that this needs to go to the board for approval. If it does, this is when the window will open. As I mentioned, April 10th would be the lottery. April 20th, the notifications to the families will start to roll out, and all families will be placed by August. And by placed, I mean in their specific school, we'll know all of that information. It's likely that we could say, yes, we do have a spot for you. We just don't know what school yet when those notifications come in April. And the last piece that you have in your packet is just the main contacts for all things limited school of choice. So we work a lot with our pupil accountant, Chris Major. Now that secondary is very removed from it, Mr. Ichu has a different view of this in the last couple of years, but Marcella is a great help with this. Mrs. Stewart, who is assisting right now in the elementary department as well. So she is a great help with families and other schools that call.
Thank you. So the lottery is the selection on April 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, it says the week of April 20th, families can notify for acceptance. August, so they have till August before they place. So really the families have a kind of a long time before they find out. Is that the issue?
Typically they know sooner.
Okay.
We're just saying by August, that would be our drop dead date. If so we look at our enrollment numbers just about every week. From till the end of the school year, we take a little bit of a hiatus when registration is closed during those couple of weeks in the summer. But when we're back in the office in the summer, we are looking at registrations weekly for sure, almost daily, to see who's rolling in. At that time, we may be placing students more accurately, but there is a very strong likelihood that going into the summer months, a family is going to know where their student is going in September. We may not get it 100%, but the majority of the families will know.
Okay. Is there ever a possibility where a student gets accepted but then waits too long and then they lose their opportunity?
Say that it's a different way, please.
Well, they are notified by
Like,
April 20th. We really send out and contact them repeatedly. There are times when it's months go by and it's July and they still have not registered. And so some of those, if they don't register until July, they probably won't get their placement until August. So the earlier they register, the better able we are to include those in our staffing numbers and be able to assign them a school. But believe it or not, even though people have put in an application, they've been accepted in a timely manner, they've gone through the lottery and been selected, and then it may be literally a dozen contacts before they come in and actually bring all of their registration materials. So that's why we really list a wide placement window, because a lot of that is dependent upon who actually comes in and registers once they've been accepted.
Okay, I understand.
And it's important to us to get those notifications out. I'm thinking specifically for kindergarten families. We start all of our parent nights. I believe it's the 27th is our kindergarten family night. So if we don't know the placement, we'll certainly invite some of our families to attend one at Cleveland, for example. So come to our kindergarten night, you can hear what kindergarten is all about. So we want to get those connections immediately, so we start giving them all of the information. You know how our kindergarten families are, they have a million questions, and
Yes.
we want them at roundup, we want them at the information night, we want to, we want them part of the community immediately, aligned with the PTAs and all the popsicles on the playground and all of that fun stuff that happens.
Yeah, because you want that prior so that they get that familiarity
Oh,
with their building.
Absolutely, absolutely, the tours, all of it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. And to just continue with what Mrs. Bradford said, there's a chance, is there not, that they could go through the lottery and get picked and then choose to go somewhere else and not advise us?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
It happens.
It absolutely happens, yes, and that's what Mrs. Opus was saying. We'll make 12 contacts. We will call. We will send emails. We will send letters, and the lingo is they ghost us.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Secondly, I got through. We'll take up to 125 students. What do you think realistically the number will be? I mean, looking at 64 from last year, and we had, was it 150?
150 was our target,
So,
or our not to exceed.
I mean, we were close to a third.
I'm going to say 70 to 75.
Okay.
I think last year was a dip, and I don't know why. But I think 70 is a safe estimate.
The last question is, and the one graph that we had, it shows the secondary numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming those are, we showed 274
Mm-hmm.
from 7th through 12th grade. I'm assuming those are all students that came in even through 8th grade at one point, through the school of choice, and now they're just working their way through high school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I shared last week too that our data wasn't abundantly clear about when they started.
Right.
We have gotten significantly more accurate as we're entering our data in our MyStar system over the years, but there are many factors that we couldn't account for at the time. For example, a family would register as a school of choice family, then they would move to Livonia.
Right.
So then they're a resident student, and you can't capture that in the system. We've now perfected our note-taking, and the system allows for a lot more secretary and administrator voice in the system to make those notes. So we're really tracking this a lot better than we were historically.
Is there any way when they come in as a school of choice that we could advise them that if you move to Livonia, let us know?
Oh, they absolutely do. It's a
they
change
do?
of address.
Okay.
Yep, they have to go through a whole process for that. And that would then be up to us to capture that in the student information system.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nichols.
This is I completely agree with you that we may lose a number of them because they don't know which building they're going to be at and until closer to August. Even if we, in the phrasing, and you might already do this, if you could let them know, we'll begin to let people know about your school placements in whatever it is, May. You know, it may be up through August, but the beginning rollouts of school assignments will be in whatever the month is, because that just sounds so much better than you'll know at the latest by August.
Oh, of
because
course.
By then, as kindergarten parent, you're checked out.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, no, I'm going out. I'm doing something. I'm not gonna wait for 5 months to tell.
I have my lunchbox, my backpack,
Yeah,
I'm ready. I need all.
we need our information.
Yep.
So even the phrasing of that, and it's probably already done, but just as a
No,
suggestion.
that's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
All right, so I will put this on the agenda, request to put this on the agenda for next week, as it will need to go for a vote.
Mrs. Opposted. Mrs. Keats, one other quick question. You said we have to have at least one spot available for each grade up through 6th grade. And when you're saying that, are you saying one spot, would that include the Nijiro and Webster in that equation? Or would that be at least one spot that is non-Nijiro?
Nope, it is all of K6. So that includes Niji, it includes Webster. So that's saying we will let one student in, at least one student in. We could let 25 in at that grade level.
Okay.
But the one says we have to let at least one in.
Okay. And even then, we're looking at where we might have some strange dips in certain grades.
Correct. And again,
but with a heavy emphasis on Young 5, K1.
Correct. Because that's where our philosophy is to capture them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 4B, ECC offerings and rates. Mrs. Keats and Mrs. Smith.
All right, we've got more paper.
Teresa, I'm looking for a second because they should have it in their packet. They should have it in their packet, so we should be fine.
That's what I
printed.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Thank you. As a reminder, you all received this information last week. Were you looking for, okay.
Yeah,
Email me. So Mrs. Smith sent the email.
Oh, it was.
That's why, yep, Mrs. Smith sent this email. All right. So Mrs. Smith and I are back, and how appropriate that we're sitting in the ECC right now talking about this.
You guys are probably the ones that broke the.
We did. Man, there was a lot of people in bright yellow vests out there assessing the situation.
That hole was large when I drove by it on my way here.
So, okay.
Driving over that hole again tomorrow.
Yeah. So Mrs. Smith and I are back to talk about our preschool offerings and rates that we shared last week at the study session. So as we shared last week, a lot of time and research went into these informational slides talking about our neighboring programs, both their offerings, their tuition, and so we want to review those slides with you. We want to talk about the rates, taking into some feedback we've kind of gathered talking as a group last week. So your first two slides are just the introductory slides. And starting on slide 3, I want to remind you of the offerings we currently have at the ECC. So in this school that we are in right now, we have different offerings for our 3-year-olds and our 4-year-olds. It is a variety of program offerings. So currently for our 3-year-olds, we offer full days Monday through Friday. We offer full days Tuesday, Thursday. And we have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday half-day option. So there's an AM section and a PM section. For our 4-year-old groupings, we offer Monday through Friday full days, Tuesday and Thursday full days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday full day, and Tuesday through Friday half days. So that's an AM offering and a PM offering. From a staffing standpoint, it's complex. When we have the AM and PM offerings, we always want to make a teacher whole by allowing them to teach the AM and the PM section. When you have a Tuesday through Friday, that means somebody is not doing something on a Monday. So there's just these pieces that we've tried to streamline. Thank you. Yes, we've tried to streamline going forward.
Jen,
yes.
Just so if they're not doing something on Monday, it would be easy to say, well, they're not working, they don't get paid. But many times to hire staff, you want to hire them for 5 days. Right?
Absolutely.
That's the piece of them not working on Monday, is that staff want full-time positions.
1000%, you are correct. And from the staffing standpoint, we want to be able to offer our staff a great working environment where they don't have 60 students on their caseload. Whereas with some of these offerings right now, our teachers do have up to 60 students on their caseload. by streamlining the offerings, we have outlined it in such a way that nobody will have more than 40. So they'll either be teaching the full day sessions or the AM, PM, and then it just lightens their load a little bit.
And just to expand on that, so that 60 student caseload would be a teacher working Monday, Wednesday, Friday with both an AM session and a PM session, and then a Tuesday, Thursday class with another 20. So then you're up to 60.
And when you think about really wanting our staff to get to know these little ones and these individuals, get to know their families, it's a lot different if you have 20 students every week versus 60 or versus 40. And in order to build a full schedule, it was requiring us to piece together quite a complex set of classes, and then again that one-on-one, and they do a remarkable job, and we know that they want to know the hearts and minds of each of our kids and their parents. It's a lot harder to do when you're switching classes so often and when you're taking on such a large caseload.
So the next slide that's titled Comparison District Offerings, we examined some of the local school districts that surround us. One outlier that doesn't really surround us is Troy, but we included that because we visited there often when we created this beautiful space, as Troy was a model program, both in what they offered as well as their facilities. So you can see from this chart that there are a lot of offerings, a lot of places. One of the consistent things that we saw was the Monday through Friday full day option. Plymouth Canton was actually an outlier, as they did not offer 5 full days, but rather Monday through Thursday. It mimicked a GSRP schedule of the 4 full days. Troy, the only things that they offer are Monday through Friday full day, Monday through Friday half day. They were black and white, wanted to make it very easy for their business mind there. Farmington has options similar to what we're recommending. One thing to point out with Novi is they have a shorter day than we provide here in Livonia. And that will be important to note when we're looking at the price comparisons. And let's see, oh, and then Northville, they have a minimum of 2 days per week in their Monday through Friday full day. So that's what the star is there. We also looked at our local Livonia programs, Learning Tree, Little Tots, and Himawari as well in the comparison. So what we would like to propose for the next year is streamlining our offerings for the families, so it makes easy sense when looking at the offerings, for our staff, as we explain the need to do that and why that's so important. And we want to offer the same things for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. So we want to recommend a Monday through Friday full day option for our families. And then we'll have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday full day and a Tuesday, Thursday. So those staff can share that assignment. And then there would also be a Monday through Friday half day option with an AM program and a PM program. So the offerings will be the same for 3-year-olds. They will be the same for 4-year-olds. And one thing to note as an aside, we mentioned it last week, the programs that fill up fastest are our full day, full week programs. So there's a need, there's absolutely a need. So talking about current rates, I will tag team my partner, Mrs. Smith here, to walk us through the finances.
Sounds good. Since we're always, looking at our offerings and comparing those with neighboring districts, we're also looking at our rates. Historically, we've taken the stance that we want our preschool program to be self-sustaining, not something that the general fund is supplementing. So we are looking at our rates very regularly and comparing that to the cost of running the program. And again, with the goal of making it cost neutral to the district. With that in mind, our current rates for this school year are, on the slide we looked at them in terms of the annual cost, but often, and even when you look at our website, we look at those on a monthly basis. We charge it over 10 months, so kind of when school is in session. So right now, the Monday through Friday full day program is $825 a month. The Tuesday, Thursday full day is $375 a month, and the Monday, Wednesday, Friday half day is $325 a month for the 3-year-olds. Same cost for the 4-year-olds for the Monday through Friday full day, $825 a month. Tuesday, Thursday, $375 a month. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full day is $525 a month, and the Tuesday through Friday half day is $425 a month. So first, of course, using that as our baseline, we wanted to be cognizant that if we change the rate, what is that impact going to be on our families? So of course, making sure that we know what we're currently charging families. On the next slide, we included some information about comparison districts and what they're charging for their various programs. We had some overlap, with some of them. But of course, something that stood out to me was we are definitely on the lower end of the tuition rates. And with that, we've had some limitations. Again, the goal is to be cost neutral to our general fund. It's whatever we charge is going to cover the cost of the programs. One of the questions I've received since being in my position for the last 10 years is, can we offer our staff insurance? And the answer has been, we can't. To do so would mean supplementing with the general fund. So unfortunately, this is one of the few groups in the district that even if you work full-time, we don't offer single benefits or family benefits for that matter. So it was interesting when we looked at our comparison districts and we see what they're charging for the programs. They are charging more, but with that additional tuition, most districts, if not all, probably all, are offering insurance to their staff, which we've noticed when we do our interviews, we're losing staff to other programs because we do not offer the insurance.
In my previous role, if I may, I would speak to great candidates. They were excited, they were LPS grads, they wanted to work in our schools, and they just couldn't make it work. I can think of one particular young lady who basically said, I am trying to figure out if I can do this, if I can go on the marketplace, supplement my insurance, and she just couldn't. And it is a reality that we do lose great people who want to work from us just because they can't afford the lack of benefits.
So one of the things we looked at was what would we have to charge to be able to afford our staff the option for single benefits. And so that's what we've come up with, some proposed rates for next year that we would like to share with you. So our current rate is shared for a Monday through Friday full day is $825 a month. What we're proposing going to is $920 a month, which would be a $95 a month increase. Broken down daily, that would be the equivalent of $5 a day. For our Monday, Wednesday, Friday full day, the current cost is $525. We'd be looking at going to $578 or $53 a month increase. Tuesday, Thursday full day would be is currently $375, and we would be going to $396 or a $21 a month increase. And the Monday through Friday, this would be a new offering for us, so that's not something we currently offer, the Monday through Friday half day. Currently, we offer a Monday, Wednesday, it's Tuesday through Friday half day option, so 4 days, and we currently charge $425 a month for the 4 days. We propose offering 5 days for half days at $495 a month, or a $70 increase, but again, not because you're going to
It
4
really
days
isn't
to 5
comparing
days.
apples to apples,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. So looking at these rates, of course, we want to still compare ourselves to neighboring districts to see what are other programs charging, are we in line? And I'm pleased to report that while these are going to be impactful, there's no getting around that. When we look at the specifically the full day Monday through Friday comparison, Livonia, when we compare ourselves to Learning Tree, Plymouth Canton, Northville, Little Tots, Mawari, Troy, Farmington, they're all ahead of us. I'd call that pretty significantly. And the only one less than us is Novi, and as Jen shared, they also run an hour less per day than the Livonia program. And same with the other programs. The other programs run the same length of day that we do. And of course, we don't want to forget our littlest learners here at UCC. We also offer childcare, 8 weeks up through 3 years old, and then once they hit 3 years old, they'd be eligible for our preschool programs. I made note last week that we don't have other districts to compare ourselves to because other districts do not offer childcare. They generally start at 3 years old for their preschool programs. So we did look at what are some programs here in Livonia charging. We looked at Little Tots and Learning Tree. We are currently charging for infants $76, and we're proposing that move to $85, which still puts us under Little Tots and Learning Tree. Infant for Little Tots, based on our research, our calling was $88 a day, and Learning Tree is at $116 a day. And then for toddlers, we have a consistent rate for toddlers. We staff it the same way at a ratio of 4 students, 4 kids to 1 adult. So that's why we're proposing the rate be the same. Currently, again, $76, moving to $85. Compared to Little Tots for toddlers, they're charging $80, and for toddlers for Learning Tree, $87. I wanted to share, I believe last week there was a question asked about the history of our rates here. And so I put together a spreadsheet, and it shows the 5-year history plus how that compares to our 26-27 recommendation. So I will talk slowly as that gets around to everybody. The first line on here is the infants through 35 months. That would be for a full time. Back in 21-22, it was $57. In 22-23, it was $62. In 23-24, it went up to $75. But we kept it at $75 for the 24-25 school year, and we only increased it by $1 last year. So you are seeing a larger increase this year.
But it's been stagnant for 3
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
And
Wow,
our
this is very helpful.
our salaries for our folks have not been stagnant over those years. And so our costs have gone up tremendously. And so that's really probably an area where we could have continued that growth. Families have benefited from it remaining essentially unchanged since 2023. And as you can see, when we look at one of our local areas, it's $116 a day, and we're recommending going to $85. It is quite costly to do the 1-to-4 ratio. That's the bottom line. We know that it is an important service. Quite frankly, in other, in private care or in public, and it's hard to find because most districts do not offer that care at that age. And so if we wanted to continue to offer that for this year, we really, really do need to look at an increase.
I will make note, I know you know this, something that makes us different too when we're comparing ourselves to the private is the ORS component, the pension piece, that the pension system is offered to all of our employees, including the child care employees, so we've got that additional cost. I wanted to explain the next line on here is the Monday through Friday full day. And you might wonder why NAs for the first 3 years on there. That's because we used to market this differently. We marketed it as childcare with a preschool component. And so the childcare with a preschool component was offered from 7 to either 5:30 or 6 o'clock. Now, starting the 24-25 school year, we marketed it as a preschool program. And we offer before and after care, but a preschool program. So the rate in 24-25 was $800. Last year we increased it to $825, and we're proposing for next year going to $920. Looking down at the Monday, Wednesday, Friday full day option, again, these were new offerings in 24-25. That year we charged $500. Last year it was $525, and we're proposing that go to $578. For the Tuesday, Thursday full day, $350 was the monthly cost in 24-25. That went up to $375 in 25-26, and this year, or for 26-27, we're proposing $396. And then the next two lines go hand in hand. So again, the Monday through Friday half day will be a new offering for us. We're proposing $495 a month. but I included the previously offered Monday through Thursday. And I did it again. I'm sorry, it's Tuesday through Friday. There's something about being off Monday, it just doesn't roll off the tongue. But again, a 4-day half-day program. We were charging $425 for the 4-day half-day program last year, and we're proposing $495 for the 5-day half-day program for this next year.
So actually proportionally, it's really not an increase. When we take a look at that, if we take the $425 and you're looking at, you know, 106 per day and adding another day, we could have that up, if we just expanded it to the 5-day, that would be in the over 500. So, I understand that the half-day program across the week looks to be an increase, but if we looked at that across a 5-day week, really $495 is actually keeping that underneath the mark where it would be if we expanded it to 5 days. If anyone follows what
We get you.
Yep. And one of the things that we did this year, when coming up with a recommendation for you was, you know, it's always been compounded on the previous year. We always look at, you kind of see last year, the increase was $25 for the different programs, regardless of if it was the 5 days or if it was 4 days or 3 days. It to me made more logical sense, and talked to my team about kind of building it off the 5-day full-time rate, and then kind of decrementing down based on if you're Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if you're Tuesday, Thursday, half-day, full day. There's a bit of a premium for part-time, as you see across other programs, but now that number is, you set kind of the first number, you set your full-time rate, and then everything else is impacted from there. So that's the reason why you're seeing a bit of a difference between the programs. So I know we spent last week quite a bit of time, because this is something we definitely take very seriously when we're changing program offerings and of course the rates. So I know we had, great discussion last week, and I know there were some questions. Hopefully we've been able to answer those, but of course we're happy to answer any questions tonight, and I'll turn it over to Andre.
Sure.
Additional comments?
Yeah, I do want to make sure that we're being very forthright with you as a board and our community, that even with this, when you look at that second to last slide, even with this increase for the 5-day a week, we are really still at the bottom, essentially, for the hours that we offer per day, in a list of about 10 programs. So the concern is, if we are able to, and our goal would be to add those benefits starting next year, but also to maintain this as a self-sustaining program and to keep this program in the black. We are not looking for this to be a big moneymaker. We are looking for it to be self-sustaining. And so in all likelihood, we would need to continue those increases over the next year or two. One of the things we did hear from you is if we're looking at that, that maybe next year, rather than having another jump maybe as significant, stretching that out over the next 2 years. So it's a 3-year process, been taking this first chunk to really get us back at least in the ballpark. And then from there, we really have no idea whether 20% of our staff would take insurance or 90% of our staff would take insurance. And even if they didn't, they would be allocated the cash in lieu option that is offered. And so giving us this next year to make those determinations, to take a look at what are people drawn to in the offerings, what feedback have we gotten from families. I will say, I hope you feel more comfortable with this in that we have kept really nominal increases for the past several years. And so while it's never great to feel that jump when we're getting back into the mix, we really probably have been undervaluing our service, which really is exceptional. And again, I want to be clear, because we are broadcasting this out to the community. This has no correlation whatsoever with this beautiful new facility. This facility was paid for with bond money, supported by our community, approved by our board. We are extraordinarily proud of this beautiful new school, and this has absolutely no correlation whatsoever with the cost increases for the programming. Those are two completely separate pots the school is paid for. This is simply to continue to recruit and retain the very best staff and to be able to compensate them fairly and appropriately. And as well as to not undervalue the service we provide. So with that, we wanted to be certain that you were comfortable with that, but that you also understood in the next 2 years, we would likely be coming back to these and continuing to look at market rates, continue to look at market offerings, and also get feedback from our families on these prices. So with, we'd like to get some feedback from you this evening and confirmation that you're comfortable with this. We have folks calling here every single day asking about offerings, rates, and ready to register. We have no doubt that we will be absolutely full like we were this year, but we would ask for your go-ahead with this proposal.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. I can tell you from my other hat that I wear that we have to periodically increase rates, and we do the same thing by looking at other communities, and even there we're low. And looking at these numbers, I'm presuming that the comparison numbers that you have are for this past year. So I wouldn't be surprised if one or more of our comparisons increase their rates, which will make even ours could be even lower on a comparison basis. So to me, this is well deserved, and I don't think it's going to have a great impact on like losing people. I think it's going to draw people that you can get it. And when you look at the other programs, if they increase even nominally what they're charging based on what we will be charging, we're still going to be low. So I have no problem with this. I think it's time. Looking historically, the numbers have been very modest increases, and even the increases that we have now are not, I don't want to say insignificant, because to some families they will be. But if they're looking elsewhere, those numbers are going to be inflated too. So I'm in favor of this. I think you guys did a great job laying this all out, doing your homework. Kudos to everybody who put it together, but I'm in favor of it.
Mrs. Bradford.
I want to thank you for putting together this slide, because it does give a compelling picture of what our rates look like, and the fact that we're changing our programming up a little bit and making it more standard across the board. I think that's a great idea, because I think it's hard to run so many different tracks and try to keep track, and that's hard on our staff. I do think this will impact our current families. The families that are coming in to the program may not see the significant jump, or they'll be expecting it because they're coming in. I do feel a little bit for those families that are currently in our program, because I do think it's a big jump, but I also believe that you've laid out a very compelling, shown why we're doing this and what the need is. And I think mainly the need is the insurance component and attracting the right faculty and staff, and to keep our programs great. I think it's always difficult, but I do understand the need for what we need to do here. And I also, I support that. I do support it. It's difficult. Like I said, I think it will. There might be a little bumpy in the road with some of our families who are like, it might bump them out of not being able to afford the program and maybe have to look elsewhere. But I also think there's families that will be able to still afford the rates and everything. It's always difficult. I look at this and I think, wow, the things are expensive, but we don't want to dip into our general fund with this program. We want it self-sustaining, and we have an excellent facility. And I appreciate Mrs. Oquist saying they do not, this program in this building is separate from setting our rates and everything for staffing. So thank you for all of this information. And I hope that when we roll it out, people will understand. And I think the biggest slide is the 10 neighboring things, rates, and showing what they are, so, yeah.
I had a couple of questions. First, I thank you for providing, I think that was my question about like what the rate change was over the years. How much of an impact is this for the families that we currently have in the shifting of the schedule? The offerings, like where they fit now, how many, like, are percentage wise off the top
I'll
of
say
your
the
head?
3-year-olds too. The 4-year-olds are currently at the, I'll say, it maybe not as impactful as you think, because the 4-year-olds are already pretty much full day. There's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or it's a Thursday. Yeah, Tuesday, Thursday. The only change would be like that half day, it's picking up 5 days instead of 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
So our current 3-year-olds that are going to 4, I would say it's not that impactful. And then for your 4-year-olds, they're obviously moving on to kindergarten. So the 3-year-olds are gonna be new families coming to us, so I'll say they weren't used to a Tuesday, Thursday half day option being available. So while it feels like a change for us because we're looking at the whole picture, I think for families it won't be as impactful as we might think.
And then I do appreciate the staffing part, and that we're looking to provide more for our staff. I know that in this hiring climate, that being competitive in our offerings is really important. Is there any way that we could still do this and find a way to transition our current families into this price jump? If I'm, not that I have some concrete, but that, kind of lessening that load, for lack of a better word, I wasn't the right word, but, lessening that impact on them this first year of this big jump.
I would say when we've looked at that, estimating what we believe folks may take and what that would cost us, we would have to delay offering benefits if we did that. So we would probably be able to begin offering it the following year, but this really, we are also increasing the rate because we now have steps for the first time. So there is a cost related to that, as well as just an increase in costs of materials and the typical things that we purchase. So if we had an increase similar to what we've had last year, like the $25 a month, that would not bring in the dollars we would need. So we would need to take a look at that, and then probably a pretty significant increase the following year in order to be able to do benefits. So if we wanted to do something less, we would want to hear from the board what that would be, and then we would price out what we would be able to do. Yeah. And like when we would be able to start it.
I know I'm not personally impacted. I just always think like it's tough as a family.
Sure. It absolutely
any
is.
change.
It absolutely is. We definitely don't take this lightly by any means.
I am impacted by it, but I support and understand the reasoning, and obviously where my issue lies is nothing to do with our program or any of the programs. It's just the pure math. If you take a dual income household and what's that median income, and then if you have 2 kids in a program like this, in any program like this, it's not affordable. You can't do it. And that's I don't mean to get on a horse here, but that's my issue with us as a state, that we don't allocate more resources to young families, especially young families that are at or below that median income, and then really try to provide more with that. But I will say I understand wanting to attract and retain the best teachers possible. the curriculum offered at this facility has impacted my life in a highly positive way. So I can absolutely support what we're doing. I just would love to see the state of Michigan get it together and take care of the little ones a little better. So, but what we do here is in my opinion, second to none. So appreciate everything that this building does.
President Bray.
I appreciate the lengthy discussion we had, largely the exact same discussion a week ago, but to allow us some time to kind of digest this. That was really helpful, because initially it was a bit of a whoa on the, it's knowing that this impacts our youngest adults who are in our community, who are raising little ones, who have a lot of demands on their budget just to try to make it from the 1st to the 30th of every month. But I understand too the absolute need. In reality, we have to be able to provide insurance to our folks, and there's only this tiny pocket of folks that we can't do that. The other prices at other facilities are because they are doing that for their people, and it is just not only the right thing to do in my opinion, but it's just necessary. I don't love increasing prices on anybody,
Sure.
but I'm supportive of this because I think it's what we absolutely have to do. I will reiterate what Mrs. Opus and I believe Mrs. Bradford both said. This building is already bought and paid for. This has nothing to do with this physical building. This is talking about being able to pay our operational expenses to run this program. And I agree 100%. We cannot pull K-12 money out to supplement a preschool program. As important as preschool is, that is not what our K-12 dollars are designed for or are given to us for. So I don't love increasing prices on things, but I am supportive of this because I think it's the right thing to do.
Any other questions or comments?
We sure appreciate all of your feedback. Thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
This is info, right?
Yes.
Item 4C is district survey presentation. Mrs. O'Brien.
Good evening again.
You have this presentation in your board packet. Does everybody have access to that? Since we won't be able to have it already. So I'm going to share with you our district survey trend from our family, student, and staff surveys that we sent out and received the feedback in the fall. And it is sorted by the elementary and the secondary levels. This survey was created as a part of our updated QUAR process, and then we looked at how this could become our district survey to check how our families and students and staff feel about our goals and priorities, so as a data point for our district. Each survey I will share the combination of strongly agree and agree answers. So the percents I'll share is those two combined responses. I'll share the trends for each survey and the comments, some of the comments that were made. And I'll share which ones are common comments and some that just stood out. And then lastly, I will share the questions that align with our portrait of a graduate and our sense of belonging, which are two areas where we are utilizing this survey to inform us. So we'll get started. So we will start with our elementary survey results. I am on slide 3. So our family survey results. So most results were 80% or higher, strongly agree and agree, with a range from 41 to 97%. And I'll talk about the 41 in a minute. So some of the highest district averages were my child feels safe, 95%. My child is learning, 93%. My child has a supportive and trusting learning environment, 93%. Confident in sending students to school, 93%, and I see the connection between attendance and academic progress or performance, 93%. So the weakest average An overall question on family surveys was, my student can tell me what they're learning during morning meeting or social emotional learning time, SEL. So that was 41% with a range at the buildings from 38 to 66. Again, this is maybe not the best written question, utilizing verbiage that educators use, like SEL time, that a parent's like, I don't know what you mean. So this would be a question we would want to change next year so that we have better information.
So even sometimes kids don't even know what they're learning. You know, I'm just wondering what we're trying to get to, because I would, as a parent, that question, I would like the teacher to tell me what they're learning, because I don't think, sometimes Tommy just thinks they're watching a fun show and they don't really know what they're learning. And so I guess some of that, you know, as my kids were going through, and it's just like, I don't expect them to tell me, but I want the teacher to tell me what they're learning, you know? So I don't know what that question is getting to, so that's my feedback as a parent. Filling out that question is just, sometimes they don't know what they don't know.
Absolutely. So on slide 4, just a sampling of family survey comments. So this school staff seems aligned and committed to providing the best education experience for my child. I'm so happy I chose, and I took the names of the schools out. As kindergarten parents, communication aimed at process would be helpful. Often communication makes the assumption that parents know what something is.
Exactly.
I would say communication is a theme in the parent written comments.
Sure.
And so that's an area, each school gets their own results and is asked to reach out to parents to answer questions that they put into the survey. And so, you know, some of those comments are, we could make some trends about that. Homework, you know, always is a comment both ways. Too much, too little, not enough, too hard. So I think that is another one. Slide 5, just some, you know, I'm very involved in my child's learning, love to have other resources that could help them succeed. We should get therapy dogs. I thought, you know, I just thought I'd throw that out there for you.
I think we should.
Everyone at the front office is kind and welcoming. Maybe better communication on how parents can support their students and be more involved. So again, just some samples. So slide 6, elementary student survey trends. So we give this starting at 3rd grade, so not our youngest learners. Our highest average range was from 70% to 91%, so that's a strong response. So again, strongly agree and agree together. My teachers are caring and strong, 90%. I want more friends at school, 91%. Our school is safe, 85%. I know an adult at school that I can go to if I need help, 82%. And the adults at my school talk about how important learning is, 81%. The weakest averages range from 47% to 64%. I like coming to school, 53%. And I see characters in books and materials that are like me, 47%. So again, you know, last year we wrote a grant and we purchased a lot of additional books. So I'm hopeful as more students dig into their student libraries. This was early in the fall. I have some wonderings about this question because I'm pretty invested in this question.
I think our schools do too.
Yeah.
I really do. As we've heard our presentations, I don't know that kids exactly understand what we're asking there. And I think that are like me in what way? Like because I like bikes, because I ride bikes, because I my hair is a certain way, because my family looks like this. So I wonder about the wording of that question. I think that's something we would like to dig into with kids more, to say like, what do you think we're asking you, and what do you think about when you answer that? And then the I like coming to school. It's so interesting because it's like there's so many positives. We found this at both the elementary and the secondary. It's even a lower rate at the secondary because they talk about feeling their school is safe, feeling their teachers are caring and kind, having one or more friends. And so we wonder with I like coming to schools at that whole idea of
I have to
getting
get
up in the morning.
Right,
Actually going to
It's
school.
I'd rather play a
Not
game.
so much like
Uh-huh.
being at school. I think that's been a
The literal
conundrum.
process of coming to school.
Yeah, it's really interesting
You're right.
because I think that's really throwing our schools that we have visited for their PAR presentations too. They're seeing a dichotomy between the way that some of the highest average questions are and then that one about coming to school, because I think that always kind of hits us right here, right? When we see that we want to see all kids like coming to school, even though we know it's not completely realistic. It definitely is a head scratcher, and that's where I think our student focus groups can really help us to dig in.
Then the next slide, slide 7, elementary staff survey trends. So highest average range 70 to 99. I take time to build relationships with students at the beginning of the year or the semester, and I take time to build relationships with my students daily, weekly. Both were very high. 97 and 99%. I have a friend at school, so for staff to have a friend and a thought partner, so 95 and 96, that's great. Some of our weakest average range was from 71 to 74, so my instruction impacts the tier 1 data point we're working on, so that was one question. Do our support staff feel like that is part of it? Do they feel aligned to their school improvement tier 1 data point? So it's just, again, another data point for schools to dig in and talk about, and then for me to talk at principal meetings with them about that. And then I have the professional development and resources to make sure all students learn at high levels, so that's 74%. So not where I would want it to be, but again, to dig in and find out more what's the why. And so then on the next slide, so the staff were to say what would be some needs that they have for PD. So working with students with special needs, additional SEL training and curriculum, fluency lessons, behavior, effective math interventions. So I think many of them, there's always things we want to learn and grow at, more time, trauma, behavior resources. So there was a wide sampling of things from the elementary teachers. So then our secondary survey results, slide 10 starts again with the family survey trends. So their highest average range went from 70 to 91%. My child feels safe, 87%. My child has one or more friends, 91%. All secondary schools have strong results for I see the connection between attendance and academic performance, 91%. So that was great, and those parents see that. Our weakest average, only one question response was below 69%, and it was my student shares their time set aside for social emotional learning. So that was
So Crystal and Helen would like to know how you responded, because we don't respond.
Just get that question.
Probably, I don't know.
Have you been asking your kids?
So
Did you ask your seniors when they were seniors in high school? Did you?
I don't know that we had a.
We barely,
survey.
yes. We barely.
slide 11, 12, and 13 are some of our sampling of family surveys. I chose the first one, a parent of a freshman. Again, it was on communication and how many different platforms we utilize, and maybe we should streamline that. But then they ended with, please know that it's been an amazing school year for my child. So like they're offering, you know,
Is this all one?
this is one
all one.
person, and I just
Okay.
felt like, so they had some great suggestions. It's difficult for a 9th grade parent, like the team is on X and this is on this, and where do I go for so many things? But then also said, it's been a great year, and so that's a wonderful thing. Slide 12, before and after school busing for activities, that has been brought up a lot over the years. Ways for counselors to check in with parents, provide number of opportunities to be involved in the school life, campus life. It's designed to encourage interaction. Staff are welcoming and seems like a great environment for lunch. And then the last one, just some safety, thought about a comment about carrying backpacks and students having those. Another very positive, proud to have their child be in high school. And then another shout out to our resource room teachers. So I just tried to give some samples. Again, the trend was really on communication, positive and negative, ways we can communicate better with our families. Oh, there's one more. Open house, changing it back to the old format. We did hear that at the middle school. We changed the format a little bit to be more of a choice session instead of walk your child's schedule this year. And they did not like it. And then just another shout.
Yep, are we going back or are we not?
Kevin,
I'm sorry,
do you know?
I didn't hear that, sorry.
The question was, for middle school, are we going back to a more traditional open house format based on the feedback?
The
we
feedback
got?
that we received from two of the schools.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Very
Sorry
good.
about that.
No,
No, that's okay.
That's great. Slide 15, so the student survey trend, so this is given to all students as many are on a given day. We ask that it be given during mascot time at the secondary level. So highest averages range from 70 to 92%. So I've won one from med school, 92%. I set goals for myself, 88%. The adults at my school talk about how important learning is, 84%. Some of our weakest average range was from 42 to 68%. I like coming to school.
Oh, yeah.
They
You're
do,
talking high school.
they do
Come
know
on.
what that means. My teacher makes learning enjoyable, 55%. And then the characters and materials that I like the impact is 42%. So. Staff surveys, again, these are at the secondary schools, so the range was from 72 to 95%. I take time to build relationships with students at the beginning of the year, semester, daily and weekly, again, 96, 95. I have a friend, 95 and 96 for thought partner. And then strategic in supporting students who are struggling academically and behaviorally, 59%. So that was weak, but I would say putting in mascot time, putting in the amount of, if we had given this before, I would make an expectation it would have been lower with the systems we
I
had
agree,
put
with
in
having
place.
full-time staffs, full-time psychologists, full-time social workers, I would assume that it would be less than 60%, much less than 60%.
And our time within the day for mascot time. And then professional development and resources, again, 62%. And on the next slide, slide 17, are some of their sampled needs. So meeting the needs of high achieving students, pushing students farther, training on reading scaffolding to help prepare for SAT, not content specific reading and writing, but help them to read and write is a universal need, not just for SAT is what they're saying. Experts in my content area are time to explore resources on my own, tiered curriculum, MyStar training, 501, 504 training, and just continued support with students who are struggling. So these were some of the themes. And slide 18, so we added a new question on portrait of a graduate, so this will be our baseline. So this is a staff, I intentionally expose students to the characteristics of an LPS portrait of a graduate. And so those are our surveys this first year. And we just rolled it out and then we asked them. So this would be a starting point for this data point. This would be one of our data points that we would look at. And then these are the questions, and some of them we've already gone over, but this is our comparison, last year's results to this year's on our sense of belonging questions.
So this is one of our 4 district SMART goals, is the area of belonging.
Yep.
It's increasing their sense of belonging.
Yep, so safety, school safety, so we have a question that students are asked, families are asked, and staff are asked, so blue, light green, and yellow is the order, and you can see that that percentage went up for students, and it's the same for parents, 95%, and then it went up for staff to 90% from 86%. And then, so that was I feel safe for a student, and then our school is safe is 83%, so that was an increase for students. And our school has a safe and trusting environment for staff, that also went up from 72 to 79%. Then they're comfortable being themselves, so there was again a increase for elementary, but it was the same for family, that their student feels comfortable at school. And then kind and caring teachers, so again an increase for students, and a little bit of a decrease for parents responding to that over last year's response. And then the last one on this slide is I like coming to school, which we just talked about. And this is all the schools added together. There's no breakout for elementary and secondary on this particular. And then, so again, those building relationships, we talked about that. That fits with our belonging piece. And then that comparison is, I feel like I belong, and families, secondary families being asked a sense of belonging. So both of those increased from the 24-20.
I thought that was a huge increase for the kids, 10%. I feel like I belong. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, anything over, 3% is considered significant. I have one more friends, so that's an increase for students, and a slight decrease from a parent's perspective that their student has one or more friends. And then I have one or more trusted adults, that's an increase for students, and then a 5% decrease, my student has one or more trusted adult. It was 91% last year. Along with that, we just did for staff, I have a friend and a thought partner, which we talked before, and that was an increase for both of those questions. And then the last set of belonging questions is the books and materials. So again, it's the same for students as last year, a slight decrease for family responses, and then an increase for staff, which I was happy since we have the grant that bought a lot of materials. So at least teachers see that they have added more, and so then maybe that thoughtfulness of using it, or how they're using it, or when they're using
Maybe
it.
being more explicit about what we have and why we have it.
Yeah.
Because staff is clearly seeing the addition of those, but the people we're hoping to see it aren't.
Well, and students too may not be thinking, let's look at what this semester looks like. They're looking, when you're asking that, they're thinking their school experience. And that goes back anywhere from a couple of years to many, many years. So I think their answers on this are probably somewhat more cumulative than just one semester where an adult can figure out, okay, this is this year's survey.
Correct. And then the attendance question, which we talked about, so that was an increase over the year before by 9%. So students, so that'd be secondary students seeing the connection. And then parents is just 1%, so from 93 to 92. And then that involvement piece for parents, wanting them to feel that sense of belonging, is a slight decrease from the year before. So 24-25 school year was the first year we took the core questions and we added and were purposeful. And then this year we gave all schools a window to give so we'd have consistent data. So it was in the fall, November to December window for this survey, and then we'll do that each year. Okay.
Excellent. Is that the kind of data you were looking for from the surveys? There's a ton of data, just so you know, every time we have the privilege of seeing a QAR presentation, those individual staffs have they dive into their own data. They're then reporting it out to the QAR team, to the visiting team, and reflecting on it, and often talking about how they want to impact that. It's interesting because no one wants to see that I like coming to school low. I think that really feels like a kind of a dagger, and so it's digging into what that feels like and why that is, especially when you have some of those other areas that are also barometers about how they feel at school are so different. So, any other data that you'd like us to bring from the survey results?
This was great. It was wonderful. Thank you.
This is great. I'm sorry, we mentioned this Did you say what your response rate was?
Each school is a little, well, students,
Overall,
they did it during the mascot time at secondary, so the expectation is all students 3rd through 12th.
Yes, same for,
Same
the
for staff.
expectation was
Yes.
all staff.
Yes.
Parents was different in different buildings, we sent it out a couple times in some schools, so I did not give you the number of families that responded for each school, and it did vary.
Okay.
I think we have better response rate from families this year over last year. There were some that it was this time, February, that we were still sending it out and there was 12 respondents.
I would be interested.
It's not
this year.
significant. We didn't hit our target of
Okay.
20%.
Okay.
We did in some schools, but we
Right.
didn't across the board.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering across the board. The other thing I think for parents, I think just a feedback piece, I don't know, Madeline, if you thought this too, but it does a little bit get repetitive. Like you're like, I already said that. There is just a piece where you're like, you know, if you're asking people to take the time, like in my opinion, make sure questions are really relevant to the parents. And I think for high school students, just like I would say a little bit for elementary students, they don't know what they're learning at SE. Time, and then for I think for high school students, it's hard to talk to your, maybe as parents we should suck it up and do it, but I think those pieces are hard to talk about. Like I really appreciate Kristen really does a great job of saying, here's what we're talking about, here's where we're going. So it is a little bit of being able to ask them, but I hear from the principal, this is what we're focusing on, this is what we're doing.
Sure.
But I think as a parent, that question, it's hard to measure if the kids are telling us, because I think that's not an accurate, if the kids are getting it, if the kids are digesting it as a district, I don't know that we need to know if the kids are telling the parents, or the parents knowing what they're doing, I think it's important.
That makes a lot of sense.
But it doesn't always need to come from the kids. Teenagers are just not as chatty as they would be in kindergarten, but they don't know what they're learning in kindergarten, so I think that question is just.
That's a great question. It doesn't even matter.
Right,
Right?
exactly.
Does that
exactly.
question?
If you know, but you just
Right.
know from an adult.
Right, and if they say I have friends and I feel safe, I have teachers I can go to, if they answer those questions that get you to that sense of belonging, does it matter whether they tell at home what, I don't know.
When I read that piece, I think more about the expectations on teachers to, in part of their lesson plan, their objective for the day is to share that with their class about, well, today we're gonna be learning about this, and if you walk away, you should know this is what we learned. So I think that when I saw that question, I thought it's more tied to what the expectation is for the teacher and the delivery of their lesson.
Similarly, the question about I see students that look like me in our materials and so forth. When I'm thinking about that from a perspective of especially a younger elementary, I know my daughter would think, okay, I don't see someone who does gymnastics, or I don't see someone who has a puppy, or what. I mean, like, there's so many things. As adults in this room, we know what our target is and where our efforts are going toward. They don't even know that's what they were asking in the question. That because there is a whole lot more, and I think that that's a good life lesson and a good reminder to all of us. There's more about what looks like me than just what physically looks like me. And I think little kiddos are looking at more, I think, at the whole selves than just what we're aiming at. Don't get me wrong, I'm very glad that we are designating a lot of dollars to make certain that we have a wide representation of children in our materials, because we didn't for way too long. I think we're on the right track in doing it. I'm just saying that I wouldn't put too terribly much stock into, especially at the elementary age, that question, because I'm not sure that they even knew that that's part of what we were asking.
But in the secondary, I mean, I don't know
I
what they would do.
think that's what stood out to me the most, because when you look at the numbers for the parent feedback and the student feedback kind of align, but it's off from what the staff perceived to be hitting the mark. And so it made me question, like, did we think that we hit the mark or we didn't? When who we're targeting, like, again, it's not intent but impact. And so the intent was there, but did we miss the mark on that? And so maybe it can be in how the material is presented. Maybe it isn't available to the target audience that we're looking to impact.
I do love the piece of wanting us to belonging, and especially with Churchill, and he talked about all their efforts for belonging. I think it's such an important and vital priority for the district, but I just don't know how you measure it, because I have 2 kids who love to go to school, but I don't even know what they would answer to that, right? I like coming to school. They like school, they like what, but when you write it on a piece of paper, I don't know that because it's cool to not like school. It's cool to like, there's almost this peer pressure, even though nobody's seeing that, to say, I like coming to school. Is a piece, I would be interested in what other districts, if anybody has a high percentage in that, because I think you can get to that with some of your drill down questions, but I think for a kid to say, I like to go to school. I don't know, I'd be interested.
They're just not gonna.
I don't know, I just think sometimes there's just I don't like school. It's not true, you actually love school. But when you really dig down, you actually do love school. But anyway, I don't know, I just think kids are, there's just pressure.
Well, the next one will be like an I'm ready assessment where we'll like.
It's adaptive, right?
Are you gonna help me create that?
Are you going to help me write that?
Why don't you like coming to school? Yes.
That is
AI's
true.
gonna write judges based on their.
Based on your questions.
I love it. Move on.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
If you answer yes, it'll be your only question. If you answer you don't like coming to school, that'll be a series of questions.
Then there's gonna be 8 adults coming into school, sitting down at a table, peeling the onion.
Exactly.
Why? Well, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yes.
It was very insightful.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
And that's it for the Division of Instruction.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Mr. Johnson for finance.
I don't believe we have anything, Mrs. Smith. Thumbs up. Thumbs up, we have thumbs down.
And Mrs. Frank for policy committee. And on to Mr. McFarland for human resources.
Yeah, we will be hearing from Mr. Francis, who should present tonight.
Oh, forgot me. Yeah,
It's Larry's
It's been a
debut.
while.
This is, yeah.
Larry's debut.
Done.
You have had quite a long day.
This may have changed since.
You got a couple retirements.
So first of all, Mrs. Junto asked me to give you some updated, I believe those for us, I think it's understatement, right? Yeah. These ones, I actually have them like back and forth and back and forth. It should be, if you pass it around, there's, if you take a stack, you'll have updated versions of these at the beginning of the year.
They're put in our folder.
Very good.
We slapped Larry's
okay,
face on several
awesome.
things and called it good.
They're great. Those are really helpful.
And then,
Thank you.
and then these are our, I believe I created there, and then I believe then after that, if you want to take one of these and
Just one of these.
yeah, just take one of those. They're all the same in that pile.
No, wait, no, right there, man.
Yeah, just,
Yeah, they're already
oh, you just
stacked.
take the staff.
Yeah.
It's after 9:30.
And this is
It
just
is
one.
late.
Just take one.
So there's
You literally only take one
Did you
page.
notice that all the remaining rubbers?
so you should have 3 items, and they should all be different.
Okay, perfect.
One is the replacement for cabinet team,
Okay.
which we gave you, I think, back in the fall, beginning of the school year. So, and then the next one would be yourselves,
Yes, us,
and it has the updated,
the new L president.
yep, correct. And then the third one is human resources, and that's got a slight update on it.
Okay, perfect.
They took your picture in the dark or something?
It was filmed. That was me with my phone, and I did it really close up on purpose. And then I used ChatGPT to make them even prettier. So those first 3, there's really not much. It's just to replacing your folders. I believe you had a packet of these, and you can toss the
Yes,
old one
thank you.
and replace with the new one. Yep.
Well, these are great.
So, so Larry and I wanted to come up and just kind of just informally give you some info. We're going to send out a document, the one that just went around that looks like a little Excel sheet. we want to send this to all the employees in LPS so that they know if they have a question about something, it gives them some guidance. The website right now, the HR website, has all of this information, and several of us already have at the bottom of our email, and I think the rest of the department is going to adopt it, is a link that would take you directly to that page.
Labeled really clearly.
So, and if you're at the bottom, you can boom, tap that, and if you had an email from me or from Larry or from Laura New or from whoever, and then folks can go boom, you're right on that page, and it's basically like a combination of this and this on the website. You just hit the little pluses, it opens it up, and it shows what, Laura New would be this, this, and this. But what we want to do to make it even easier or more direct is the document that you have with you, that we want to just push this tomorrow or the next day to all employees, because some people really like to print something out and maybe put it on their desk or on their board, or they can just download it and have it in a folder, etc. So just really quickly, because you have it in front of you, we're not going to read all the items, but I'll take the top 6, Larry will take the bottom 6, just to give you a little taste of some of the work that folks do and just sort of how we separated items with regard to duties and responsibilities. So at the upper left, for myself, you can see down this, going top down, the groups that fall under my purview. Now, everything that Larry and I talk about and saying like, that falls under my purview, that falls under Larry's purview, that doesn't mean that we don't work together on items. That doesn't mean that we're not going to talk about things. It doesn't mean that if he's not there, so sad, no one's going to answer your question. We're all going to pitch in. What it really means, and it's really helpful, we have a monthly meeting with our HR staff, with our whole department. And we've been talking about doing this, and we worked together to update it. And last week when we did it, we were trying to say basically like they really want to know who should I go to?
Sure.
Who's the first person I should talk to on this topic? And so we've delineated these items. So for myself, the groups, the employee groups is AFSCME, SEALs, LEADS, LSA, and the non-union folks. With an exception carved out for early childhood, it makes more sense to put it into with Larry. And you can see some of the other items, from safety and security to insurance and benefits. And again, that doesn't mean that Larry doesn't have an interest and information about insurance and benefits, but it's easy for Kim to say, Kim McLeod's our person with benefits. It's easier for her to say, okay, I'm the first person to contact and whatnot. So, and I'm the Title IX coordinator. So for Larry, you can see, his groups, he's got the LEA, LPA, the ECC folks, and this is what we really want to get out, because when emails get sent, folks either send it to everybody, or they send it to the wrong person, or sometimes they get lucky and it lands to the right person. So we want to make sure if somebody has a question about something and they're in a certain group, we want to get them to either Larry or me. So that's why we have that delineation. Laura New has been around for a long time. All of you, I'm sure, know her and know that she's around. She's fantastic. She's our administrative assistant in HR, and you can see the bevy of items that run through her desk, the FOIA requests, resignation support. If people have jury duty, that's where some people, just if you didn't know, you gotta get that to Laura.
Yeah. Oh, I have my number, yes. I'll turn over my check.
Frenchie is another secretary there, in this role here as like REP, which is the Registry of Educational Personnel. Very important, that has to do with the state and who are folks, certified folks, etc. So you can see all of these items, the student teacher placement. Kim Crudo, one of the things that she gets to meet so many people, because when they get hired, they get their ID badge, right? Or if you need to replace it, they'll come in. FMLA is a big piece that she does, that type of medical leave. And you can see the other items there. And then Kim McLeod, I've already mentioned that, the insurance benefits. She's the person that heads that up when there's questions about, am I eligible for cash and lieu? Am I eligible at all for single, or family coverage and whatnot. And so there's multi items that Kim is steeped in, and that's the person that we want our employees or potential employees to know where to go and ask that question so they don't get bounced around. I'll pass it over to you, Larry.
Yep. On the bottom, we have Chris Majors. She's our people accounting go-to person, so she's overseeing all the enrollment processes and verifying the student residency. Next, we have Kathy Wood. She's administrative assistant, working with wages and step increases, longevity, salary worksheets. Nicole Ninnis is our substitute specialist. She's got a tough job every morning trying to get all the jobs filled. Linda is our friendly face at the front desk, receptionist, and she also helps sub in people accounting and in the sub office when Nicole needs a hand. Mike Riley is our administrator of public safety, so all things related to safety, security, investigations, sometimes a little Title IX help also. And then Michelle Arnold is our student information specialist, working closely with Chris Major, MyStar, student information, scheduling, things like that.
And there's folks that back each other up in there, try to help out, but again, these are the some of the primary duties of these. We have 12 of us all together in that department, and so there's a lot of people in there, and there's a lot that flows through the department, and so we just want to kind of lay this out for our employees so they can have the email or the number or whatever to get a hold of somebody.
Very good. It's a huge organization, as you know, right? We have over 1,900 staff members, and I think one of the things that our team is really trying to do is just really streamline a really complex set of items for folks. So it at least is the initial point of reference.
Is Linda, she the receptionist at the main center, or she
At Central,
yes. She's like when you walk in the front room.
She's here.
What else?
Great, thank you for
Yeah,
this.
Phil must have put these together because his picture's on two of them.
That's I'm squinty with a very bright day. Very squinty in that picture.
This is great, thanks.
Yeah, it's really good.
Hopefully that answered the question. I know that came up last week of, what each of their roles were. And I think one of the biggest delineations is really Larry working directly with the teachers, the paraprofessionals, ECC, and that's it. And Phil working with AFSCME, SEALS, LSA, and LEADS. And then obviously there's a lot of overlap when it comes to collective bargaining, when it comes to contract compliance and things like that. But initially, at least for groups, for a parapro to know, okay, that's a Larry question, for an AFSCME person to know that that's Phil. Even those delineations are helpful.
And we've been, especially when this goes out, we will start to say, okay, you sent me, let's say it was someone in LA sent me a request for something. I will reply and say, this falls under, the LEA falls under the purview of Larry, I've added him on here, he'll respond to you. And we don't do that to push something to somebody else, it's that the consistency of Larry responding. And if somebody, maybe it was a SEALS question, he would push it to me or a secretary question. So we keep that as consistent as possible. Although I could just start automatically forwarding all the emails to Larry.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Welcome to the team, Larry. Here's all the.
So any other questions?
This is super helpful. Both of these are.
Yeah, this is great.
Yep.
Good.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Legislative Committee, Ms. Jarvis.
At this time, I have nothing unless Mrs. Oakley has anything to add.
We do not.
We have nothing to report.
So that brings us to the end of our meeting. Thank you to those of you who may have hung in there with us. We will wish you a nice rest of your week, and we will see, we're off next week, I believe, and we will see you 2 weeks from today. Thanks, have a nice evening. Good night.